Now you guys can hear me. Okay, wait, my camera's lagging a little bit. So I've dealt with this in the past with when I streamed the Randy, and what I saw was that my camera just likes to be warmed up. So it needs a little loving, you know what I mean? And
A little
so
TLC.
yeah.
Everyone needs a little bit of that. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's lagging right now, guys. If it continues to lag like 15 minutes in, I might just need to turn it off for like Dax, but you guys will still be able to see me. Or I could turn off for you guys and then Dax can still see me, which, you know, technically I'd prefer, but it's fine. Yo, Terrible TJ coming out the gate with the gifted membership. Thank you for that.
That's a big W, TJ.
Yeah, this is a stream that was a long time coming, given that I had a stream hiatus, much like Oda is having a chapter hiatus. You guys know me, I love streaming, but I couldn't stream as much as I want to, and now I haven't posted in a decent while, to be honest. But you know, we're gonna change that because Oda, who we're gonna bring back this meme, who's in my basement, is taking vacation, so I am taking vacation. And oh, this is a perfect song. The Supernova Rookie Legend, the most exciting new gen chapter reaction streamer, Dax Sock. It has like raid boss endgame villain music coming on right now.
Okay, I was gonna say I can't hear I tried turning on the stream so I could hear the music.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, now I'm hearing two voices. That's too much.
Yeah, let me tell you what song it was. Oh, difficult. That's what.
By Jordan D Piano.
Yep.
Shout out to Jordan.
And so now we have Dax. You guys, you know, throwback to last year, Pluton as a mole, I think, was born around this time. Like maybe in a like, was it this time or is it in like a month or two?
Well, if we're talking the first Pluton video, I want to say that was like early August, maybe.
Wow.
The very first video ever came out June 28th. So we're almost to like the year anniversary of like the channel starting, quote unquote.
Oh wow.
But yeah, the mole is about. Well, I mean, like I guess I was talking about it a year ago. The video didn't come out, so yeah, it was born a year ago. But
right, and since then you've blossomed into many more. You know, I mean, we already highlighted on the channel the Afro. Oh, I have a whole thing to show you about the Afro thing. By the way, I can't talk about it right here, but I kind of forget where it was, but there was something where I was watching it. No, it's a spoiler. But I was seeing it and I was like, wait a moment, that's kind of crazy. And then thereafter you've had a few theories which I've been privy to because we've been talking behind the scenes.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily know the full lengths of, and I'm curious to know how much they've stood up to Oda's raid boss of a chapter, 1086, and the minions that came. I wouldn't say minions, but like the first commanders of chapters that came beforehand. You know, 1079
level chapters.
Yeah, like 1079 and 1080, where Shanks and Garp came out, almost are like, you know how like Virgo is super cracked on Punk Hazard. And it's like he's the first guy, but we didn't really see, like, you know, and then we get to Dressrosa and like everyone else is kind of crazy, right?
Like Virgo did like full body armament hockey, and we're like, oh man, that's like so dope. And then he gets just cut in half, which like kind of made it kind of lame. But then we see Pika do it also, and so now we don't even talk about Virgo anymore. But like, you know, at the time it was pretty hype.
Yeah, a lot of hype there, and so, you know, it's this is a good time to talk to you. I restarted streaming up and I got Randy last time, and I know him, you, me, we have like an interesting ebb and flow when it comes to our videos and what we talk about and our behind the scenes connections as well. And oh man, now we got a wholesome ass song too. This is great. I'm not DJing this. This was a huge conspiracy. I saw so many comments last time on the King Recon video asking like, did Par DJ this? Because if so, like, can I hire you for my wedding? No, it was just RNG, guys. Completely RNG. I made up the wedding part. No one wanted to hire. But hey.
Well, real talk though. At my wedding, I'm definitely gonna have Jordan D piano playing, for sure. Well,
Oh,
not like physically. I mean, I don't know if he would do that, but at least the music,
wait,
bare
he
minimum.
he made like a one piece wedding thing, right? Like he has a video like that. I'm pretty sure.
I think he does actually. I think
Yeah,
you're right. He's like a Broadway pianist, so he's like legit. So
bro.
maybe if I can get him like physically there, I would. That would
Yeah,
be hilarious.
you can tell
But
by
bare
how
minimum the music.
delicate his hands looks because he shows them in the videos. You can just
Yep.
tell the quality by a pianist's hands. He
Yes.
got those hands that you just wanna, you know, tap tap tap. You know what I mean? Jordan is here. I'm sorry, but where was I going with this? Starting up streaming again, and yeah, and
Oda's been cooking. I don't
Oda's been
know.
cooking, but something that we love doing on the thing, and the reason why we do the streams is to highlight ideas outside of my channel, but then also the creators outside my channel, which I love that in my hiatus of time, Dax is doing a lot of. And so earlier on, like at the end of last year, we had you on a few times. Since then, since the last time we collabed, I believe, not to hype up myself, but I believe I gained like 20 plus thousand subs. And the reason why
That's
I say
short.
that is
Ballin'.
because that means that there's 20,000 plus people who may not know Dax as well as they should, because I made sure that everybody on my channel knew about Dax as much as I could when he was there last year, blah blah, and you know, but I've been slacking. So Dax, let them know who you are, what what you got going, because you got a lot going on too.
Yep.
Hit them with
No,
that.
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I was on here. I think it was episode 24 of The Voice of All Things. So it has been a minute. But yeah, I mean, most of you guys probably know the mole theory and the afro theory, of course. Those have been long-standing theories. But lately, I've had a lot of new ones. Which one of the biggest things we got to talk about is Emu in the Shadows. That's like one of the biggest things going on right now. So I definitely want to talk about that. I got quite a few videos on that. Also the Mass Deuce being the man marked by flames. That we might have to talk about that a little bit. I know
Yeah.
Par is the mastermind of the man marked by flames theory. He has all of them except the Mass Deuce one. So I got to stick with this one. The rest of them were taken. But no, I'm just happy to be here, man. There's so much to talk about, and I do want to say this, Par,
Yeah.
because I know you've been busy today. I know you told me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear about the updates to the last chapter, the official? Did you hear about all that?
No
All right. Just
longer
want to
the
make sure.
former king. He is the he distinguished. That's where he. So I saw a transition. Sandman said, and others said, hero of God Valley. If you guys don't know, we're talking about 1086. Figarland Garling was announced to us in the scans. You know, I'm interested to see the raws. I didn't check them this part too heavily, but introduced us as the former king of God Valley, and now there was a lot of the Japanese speakers said it would be more accurate to say the hero or champion of, and I believe the Viz went with he got distinguished by the events at God Valley. So
Yep.
that's a heavy pullback on the
Yeah.
perspective and lore, and that does change a lot of things. So I'm also glad that I waited, like I always do. You guys, if you guys listen to like the live stream or my call with Sai, you guys know I was in the sauce about the kanji and katakana, so much so that the mother frame change or mother frame thing that the Viz said, which is interesting that they changed the Garland Garling, but they didn't change mother frame.
They did comment on it though. Or
Yeah.
Stephen Paul did. He
Yeah.
commented and said like it's definitely ambiguous. He went with frame, but it could be something else. It's genuinely hard to tell.
Yeah. What I will say is, one thing I will say is I'm new to, as you guys can see, I'm like technical difficulties lagging. I'm gonna try and adjust the camera so that it's not lagging. At the same time, I'm a little rusty on keeping up with both chats on Twitch and YouTube, which I found out might be some Straw Hat Luffy activities very soon, which we don't have to get to. YouTube is the main sauce though. But the mother frame thing, right? The reason why, and I think everybody should apply this to all, not just 1086, like literally go have fun, go look at Japanese, try to learn it. I've been doing a decent bit talking with a few people with credentials in teaching Japanese as well. And I'm not saying I'm good at Japanese. I'm just saying that I'm looking at it really, really heavily. And so Rairo's here. That's a great thing, because one thing I would say that's interesting, at least from my perspective, is that in katakana, the way to say flame and frame would largely be the same, because R's and L's are interchangeable. So it would be the three symbols, fu, ra, mu, which would be flame or frame depending on the context. And what's interesting about the katakana here is that it seems like Oda forced imu at the end. So it says fu, re, imu at the end, which is like, so for me, the way I've been interpreting it is Oda's doing wordplay. You see this often in making music, right? Like Eminem's making a rap, right? Orange and door hinge don't necessarily rhyme, but he makes it rhyme. He makes a lot of words rhyme, even though they aren't spelled the same, they aren't pronounced the same way. And I think Oda's inserting like extra meaning, and there's another reason why he chose to go with katakana, I'm assuming, and it's probably so that he can include imu into that. And he's probably did that with all the other crazy names, not just in 1086. Go back and look a bunch of ones. I see a few people mentioning some that I didn't mention before, but that's where I was looking. That's honestly why I know about the flame thing, is because what Zirak mentioned in the chat. Frankie's name. So his Frankie's name is real name was Cutty Flam, and so in the katakana, it's interesting because you could twist that to make it say Cutty Flame, and that's a whole interesting.
I love that.
Yeah, so I've been playing with that context there, and I'm glad I only brought it up because so I'll do this sometimes, guys. I told Dax that I wasn't going to spoil or tease my theories as much as I usually do in this stream, unfortunately, because I have so many videos to put up, and they're just so crazy that teasing them doesn't even do anything. But I told Dax that I'd also want to come back afterwards and talk about it, maybe on his channel, maybe on my channel, whatever it is. But you guys know that if you guys bring it up in the chat, and it's something you guys mind wrote to me, I can't stop. I gotta mention it. So the Cutty Flame thing is something super interesting to me. The reason why is, I'll mention this really quick before we get into the main things I want to talk to Dax about, is, and I'm saying this because it might add some stuff, especially now that we got this change with the Figarland thing, which is that the Holy Knight, Figarland Garling, how did you feel about his head shape?
I mean, it's obviously a moon, but even from side to side, it could be like a star almost, because like he has like the pointy ends coming out. But I said this during my stream, it gives me Frankie vibes because of the hair. And he also has the sunglasses on. Not saying he's related to Frankie. I'm not trying to like, like shoehorn in a theory there. But when I first glanced at him, I was like, okay, that hair is like way too crazy to be like a natural thing. Like that's like what Frankie would do. And then the sunglasses, like Frankie's always such a cool, like that's like his vibe. You know what I mean? So when I looked at it, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like that is like, I don't know how it would be. Like, I don't know what the connection would be, but it just really stood out. So now that you're saying Cutty Flam or Cutty Flame, and obviously Vegapunk and Frankie have a million connections that we still have to find out about. So I don't know, man. But where were we gonna go with it though?
Dax, did you forget where you're at, bro? You said, oh, I don't want this too much. Where are you? The guy with the connection.
This is the safe place.
Okay, so I'll tease this because I honestly, in terms of the full theories that I have planned out, I do have a Frankie one, but it's not something that I've been inserting into my main thing. But a detail from that video was like, I want to know Frankie's origins. I've been doing Nami and Frankie. Those are the two ones. And then now Brooke, because Brooke came back in a few theories. But Frankie. So Frankie was a pirate or a orphaned kid from a pirate crew that didn't want him. All that stuff, right? There's so many interesting details that Oda told us, and I've been teasing about some of the stuff, and some of you guys know that I've been talking about it, right? Do you remember something interesting about Water 7. Water 7 had like masks. They had like people like very like they outside of like CP9 who were like masquerading in these masks. They had like people like wealthy people on like the king bull on these masks, right?
It's like some country does. I don't know what country it is, but somewhere I know that's a famous thing where like they have the mask on a stick, right? And they like cover their eyes with it. It's that was what Oda was going for there. I forget what that is.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
I know what you're talking about.
In Water 7, it has a whole lot of history. I'm interested to see if you guys pull those details out of me. I already told Sai that, and he's like, "Woo, wait a second, that's crazy." But Frankie, do you remember how he was introduced?
Fighting Usopp, but I don't know if that was the introduction. That was like afterward where he like beat up Usopp, but I don't remember.
Did we see his
Exactly.
face?
I don't remember. What's that?
Did when we first saw Frankie, did we see his face?
I don't remember. I don't know.
Chad's got it. He had a mask. He had a sun mask. He had
Ooh.
like his head looks so crazy. And you look at the mask, right? It looks like something like it looks different from the other masks that were present. It looked like Oda actually chose to use that mask. Do you remember what Frankie naturally created on Water 7 when he became ostracized? Where did he reside? What was that called?
I don't remember that either.
Frankie House.
So
House is interesting now that we got House Nerona. It's an interesting thing coming up. So like dynasties, they chose that in the officials. I saw that, yeah, it could be House, it could be Dynasty. I think in Japanese they go with House. But do you remember what's on top of Frankie's house in the thing?
No.
A crescent moon. A crescent moon
Damn.
is at the top of his house. So
and that begs the question of who built that place. Also, I feel like, you know what I mean? Because wasn't that like an underground bunker thing? He like no, I think there is a connection there, but I guess that's
that
just
house
what I'm
was he
thinking
made.
like,
it was like on the island separate. Like what you're talking about is like underneath one of the gates where Usopp was.
yeah,
and
like where the
outside he
ship
had
was.
Frankie house where it had like claws and stuff like that.
So a separate, not like where the blue, where they thought where that secret room was and all that stuff. Like
Yeah,
not that.
not there. He built that on his own, and I don't know. Maybe he, like he apparently was old enough to know his parents abandoned him. That was interesting. I forget how old he was, but he knew. He like told Tom like, yeah, these are my parents. They left me. I don't want to talk about it. Right? Super interesting. But he was like old. He's not like Shanks in a treasure chest, not knowing anything. Right? No, he's cognizant. And the thing about that is like Frankie is of their timeline. Right? He's like old. Frankie is actually like ancient. When you think about it, like he fits in like the I forget how old. I think he's like 40s, or I think
he's late 30s because it's the
36. I think
it's the numbers. Yeah, it's like the BF, like the Battle Frankies, like it's 37 now because that's like one more than his current age because it's like he advanced over the time skip, I guess is like the logic or whatever. But yeah.
So he's like 36. He's in an interesting timeline considering God Valley got eradicated sometime after God Valley. If there were a group of pirates that kind of like left the situation, had to leave, and I don't know, had to abandon their kid because they were being chased, I wonder what like major event, unless Oda wants to create a new one.
Right.
And then, oh, wait, hold on. Now that we know, by the way, the Fraud Valley video is kind like the main point of my Fraud Valley video. A lot of like the bandwagoners want to be like, oh my god, Rox isn't weak, oh my god, like blah blah blah. Like that wasn't the point of the video. The point of the video was that Sengoku was lying to our asses in that chapter. And in 1086, what did we find out? He was lying to our there's no mention of Garland Garling or any portion related to anything. There's not even like an iota of like gap in his storytelling where it allows for Garling to be placed. So he's not even mentioning the most badass. Like, how do you forget this man? Like, and if he's the one who scarred Whitebeard, tell me you're listening to Sengoku again.
Which, by the way, I highly doubt that's what Whitebeard was talking about. I know a lot of people have been theorizing that. Okay. I would be extremely shocked if Oda changed that because the entire situation there was Roger. Like we didn't know Whitebeard that well. We just
Mhm.
knew he was Roger's rival. And then he
Mhm.
meets Shanks, who we knew was on his crew. So it's just like you could say like Oda's trying to do some like incredible 5D chess, but the entire context of that discussion was to hype up his, fights with Roger. So like I'd be shocked if that was it personally.
It's
Also, it's like it was, and again, like you said, Sengoku's not the best narrator and all
uh-huh.
that kind of stuff. Like, he's probably leaving out info, but it was also like Garp and Roger fought the Rocks Pirates, which, like, obviously now we know Figurlin Garling had something important to do there, but it's just like Oda would almost be retconning if he changed it, I guess is what I'm getting at. Because, like, there's no reason for it to not be Roger, given
It's
that
interesting
point
you
in the
say that
story. But
because a lot of people this is the reason why a lot of people had like a Shanks had a someone else related to him theory prior to even 1080 whenever the twin thing the Holy Night chapter. It was because, and I heard this first on TikTok from a few creators who asked me to make a theory about this, honestly, was that they were like, what scar is Whitebeard talking about? Because they're like, did Roger scar him in that thing? And they were pointing to like at when they met up, like Whitebeard had like a mark, but that didn't end up leaving like a scar. But then current day Whitebeard, we see like a bunch of scars, and like it's interesting. I haven't like looked too deep into it. I like the idea, and the only reason why I like it more is if that is the case, that Whitebeard was talking about Figurlin Garland, is because I told Randy that I think that Oda had foreshadowed the Holy Knights in pre time skip very small points, and I wasn't even talking about that Whitebeard moment. There was two other places where I thought that he could have been very strongly alluding to the Holy Knights. And hey, if we find out that Whitebeard, well, it's gonna be hard for us to find out if Whitebeard was talking about that without God Valley's flashback, but sometime down the line, if that gets added to it, that just gets added to it. Because I have one of my videos is talking about pre-time skip forward shout out to Holy Knights, and it does not mention that at all. And I don't even think I'm going to change it, even because I wrote it before 1085, I believe. And I think in terms of I like it to be Roger, but it doesn't bother me if it's Figurlin Garland. But here's another question then. This will jump into one of your theories, recent theories, which I'm gonna get to the super chats after we discuss this bit. Is Figurlin Garling? How powerful is this man?
I'm so glad you asked that. So first off, I want to say about the scar thing. The reason why I was even thinking about that is because Randy did a video recently,
Yeah.
and it was about the mother frame, but he had like a small snippet in there where he's like, by the way, I know everyone thinks this is Figurlin Garling's scar or whatever. Like that's what Whitebeard was talking
Yeah,
about.
he's very
And he
adamant.
said he had the same exact response I did. So whenever I heard him say that, I was like, oh, okay.
You're not alone.
It's like we could be wrong. There's not 100% confirmation, but that's like I was like, there's the whole context was to hype Roger in that. Anyways, but that's beside the point. Whitebeard has a ton of scars, so Oda could just still make a scar from both people. You know what I mean? And never answer it, and so we'll never actually know. But it could be either. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How strong is he? I mean, I guess I want to ask you one brief question before I answer because I feel like this is important.
Answering a question with a question.
How strong do you think the Gorosei are?
Oh, okay. So this is my take has been, and I've been seeing more people talk about it in this light, where I think the Gorosei are going to be at a level that's not attainable necessarily. Like it's not like they have something from Emu or something from the Void Century that makes it so that, like, yes, even Luffy, like at the very end with Nika powers involved, he'll get there. But I feel like in the journey to that, they're gonna be prostrated as the like this is hacks, like nobody should even
So
have
Yonko
this
level or above.
yeah. I think Yonko level and above, but What I will say is there's caveats to powers in One Piece, right? Like Kaido
Yeah.
could be outright like the most durable, strongest, like destructive man in the thing, but when it comes to like powers like imagination, right? It's not straightforward anymore. There's a whole new like dimension. Like if you were to put like power and durability here, now you have like, well, this dude could just make shit out of his hair, right? Like what do you do
Yeah.
against that? Like that's not, is he powerful or is he just annoying, right? Like, and I think
Yep.
that Gorosei are gonna be in this like bubble of like, that's just not fair anymore. Like,
I'm with you.
and how do we
I
prevent them
agree.
from being like that?
I think they have hacks of some kind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if the Gorosei, if you took away whatever the emu hacks are from the Gorosei, they'd probably be like Yonko level or like around Holy Knight level, which is like such a weird thing to say because we don't know how strong that is. But like I would feel like they're probably all somewhere near it. But I agree with you. There's some kind of hacks that's gonna make it just not fair. Like, for example, what if they can use their shadow to like avoid all kinds of damage somehow or something, right? Like they turn into their shadow when an attack's about to hit them, and then it doesn't do anything
Let's go.
unless
That's what
you
I'm
know
talking
how to
about.
hurt shadows, right? So something. I don't know, something
No,
like that. I'm with you, but if we're gonna go straight power, I do think Figurlin Garling will be a little bit different. Like he might have hacks, but not the same hacks as the Gorosei, I would imagine.
yeah, yeah. It's
But
probably offset by the sword, right? Like he being him
yeah,
being a fighter, right? Like I think, like, not saying the Gorsei aren't fighters, but more like he very clearly, like, man, this dude could kill you with his hair. Like that's how pointy this could be. So like I could see that, like, yeah, like the I see hidden island. Welcome. Oh, I
yep.
also see Preach.
And Preach is here too.
Yeah,
Yep.
Par your Chaz Fire. Sorry, I'm not more attentive. I'm new to the streaming thing, believe it or not, this year. 2023 Par is new to this. Yeah, 3-day it says go sub to OPU. Go to
Definitely do that.
yeah, for me it just says Peace University. I'm like, damn, that's a dope name. But go sub to One Piece University, which is definitely dope
Yep.
too. They're almost at 1K subs. We definitely want to support that. I've been
Yeah,
on there.
definitely. They've been grinding. Although I do want to say this, Par. I don't know if you heard this, but they changed the monetization requirements on YouTube.
I knew for shorts, but not for like overall. They did.
They changed it entirely. So if you want to get ad revenue, it's the same. You need to get 1,000, have 4,000 public watch hours, all that kind of stuff. Same exact thing.
Uh-huh.
But for super chats and memberships and super thanks and all those things like gifting stuff, you only need 500 subscribers and
Oh.
3,000 watch hours.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, it's an amazing change.
Yeah,
It to me it makes so much sense because like why would you stop people from gifting you stuff?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Like especially from YouTube's perspective. Like I get the ad thing because like you want to tell your advertisers like, hey, we have good people that are gonna meet these requirements and all that. We like you can definitely put your ads on this channel. It's fine. So I get that because like brand new channels that have 0 subs, who knows what kind of content? You definitely want it to grow a little bit.
Right.
But for the gifting. Like who cares? Like YouTube takes a small cut of that, so it's
Yeah.
like why would they not want that to happen? So
I mean that because it's not like the most efficient money laundering, but like there is some kind of content that could be supported in a large way that way. But we
Yeah.
won't get too far into that. But what I will say is it sounds like YouTube is going the opposite way of Twitch, and they incorporated some system to monitor 500 sub accounts, which is great to see. YouTube doesn't take many W's, so we got to give it to them. Twitch is in the L gutter right now.
I don't know if Twitch has ever caught a W. Their only W's are like
When they
trying to
began.
claw back the L's, like which aren't even W's.
I
That's just
like
back
Twitch
to
when
the-
they started, but back
Same.
before they were bought out by another billionaire who I don't want to fight right now. But but in terms of celestial dragons,
Yep.
the Hidden Island says the Gorosei and Figarland are the same level, in my opinion. As leader of God Knights, I think Figarland is almost like a 6th elder, and overall, I think they're at least Yonko level each. I can agree. I think like so that's. I'm so glad you said what you said, Dax, about the shadows thing, because that to me, and this is no knock on anybody in the chat, don't take it this way, but like when I made the shadows theory, there was a manifestation of what those powers look like in the future, and what you described is exactly what I imagine the end stage would be, which would mean that like it's again, this is headcanon about the shadows theory, not necessarily what we're seeing here or with the Gorosei. But what I mean is, like, when I thought about the shadows thing, I thought about it like if you had a group of people that could manipulate shadows, they don't have to have devil fruits. They could control everybody with devil fruits, because if it's related to lights, which Hidden Island has made a theory about, it's related to shadows, which I've made a theory about, which is two sides of the same coin. And then on top of that, you could also control regular people with shadows. We saw on Thriller Bark, like Moria was out here bending people, and then it would also explain why they wanted Moria's power, or at least not necessarily why they wanted, or why they wanted to like
they wanted to keep it in their control in some way, right?
Yeah.
Like, because if you're a warlord, at least there's some modicum of control there, even if it's not like for instance, Kuma showed up in the middle of the arc, like, hey, you're not going to lose, right? Like, that's basically what the conversation was, like, hey, you're good, right? You got this, right? Like, you're not actually good, because like I was sent over here, you know, just to check on you. Really, it's because like your fruit is too dangerous to let out into the world. But you know, I'm here, you know, checking on you.
And what I want to add on top of that, a lot of people forget this, and I feel like I'm going to highlight this in a future video, is people forget Kuma had direct communication with the Gorosei. He went there and was talking to the Gorosei. Like, word, I think he even like was like, are you serious? Like, I'm pretty sure he said like, are you serious, bro? Like, he said something like that, and then they were like, yes. And then he's like, all right, down. And then he disappeared Perona. He fought everybody, and then when he met the Straw Hats, he's like, and he like the Gorosei are on, I'm pretty sure, on the Denden Mushi. He's looking down on the Straw Hats from the ship, and he's telling them the Moria lost, and he's like, oh god, not Moria. And then he's like, eliminate them. He's like, Roger, and then he just goes down and does his thing. He's like literally talking to the Gorosei in that scene, which is like wild, because that's pre-cyborg Kuma. This is like Kuma with being him. This is him Kuma.
Yep.
So there's some sauce there. There's some sauce there.
And is it you know, is it a coincidence that during that arc we got Kuma, who has all these bubble powers and all that, right? And we meet the shadow powers in the same arc, and ores, which is a whole other thing that we can talk about later. But all these important things happen in the same arc, and we're kind of concurrent. And now we go over to Egghead, and even though this isn't occurring at Egghead Island, it's in the Egghead arc, where we see Imu's shadow powers, or whatever they are, right? What looks to be shadow powers. And we see that Kuma is still technically involved in the arc. We know he's climbing the red line, literally to where this all happened. So I think he's going to save Mosgard, but that's a whole other discussion. Or he's going to try to, at least.
Oh,
but then, but then also, like, remember in Egghead we had like the memory bubble, right? And there's still people who can use bubbles at Egghead. So like Oda has for some reason combined shadows and these bubbles, which can basically take in like intangible things and make them somewhat tangible, which is like, these are like breaking the game. Like, both these things are like completely illogical to what we would expect how the world would work. So there's a reason why he's mixing these two. And so I don't know what it is, but for instance, just a random idea, could Kuma's powers be used to like separate a shadow out from somebody, so like you can have both active at the same time or something? I don't know. Or maybe you separate the shadow and the shadow's useless, but then you put some memories into the shadow. I don't know. These are just random ideas that I'm kind of thinking of. But there's a reason Oda's combining these two all the time.
On top of that, it's like, if you go back to Thriller Bark, shadows, and you highlighted this recently in your video with the Holy Knights, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Before we talk about that, I'm gonna get the super chats. But with going to Thriller Bark, it's like the shadows had memories that contain the personalities, battle abilities, and what memories is interesting, because it's the full memories. At the end of the day, it's the full memories. And the reason why I say that is, the only reason why you lose the memories is because Moria's influence is on you. His prerogative for the entire arc was, I don't need these people's memories. The longer I'm controlling you, your memory gets taken away. And we see that progression with Luffy. His shadow gets put in ores, immediately he's still Luffy. Like, everything besides like him caring about like the current situation it's I need meat, where's my crew, I want to be Pirate King, all the same thing.
He puts the thing on his head like a hat, like, exactly. Where's my hat at?
And so you got that, and then at the very end of the arc, Kuma pulls out, and I've talked about this in my Blackbeard video, which I think is just it just makes, like, at the end of the day, Kuma did not beat up Zoro. That bubble did not like punch Zoro like Moria was stomping on Luffy or anything like that.
Right.
How do you give that effect of Luffy's pain through a bubble? Well, we find out on Egghead. He tells us in the flashback that pain and memories are through electrical signaling. They all like basically synonymous, to the point right afterwards we see Bonnie Vegapunk is like, don't touch that, Bonnie, it's pain, and Bonnie's like, no, it's memories, and it's like they're painful memories. Yeah, like
Yep.
the ones that Kuma's going through, like we don't even know if Bonnie can handle like the amount of stress. We know she's a fighter, we know all that stuff, but like all the turmoil that she's going through, it's gonna end up feeling physical. And you go through
Yep.
what Kuma said about Luffy's bubble. It's his it was his pain and suffering. That's what he put onto Zoro. And so Zoro experienced what his body went through that bubble that gave him the memories of what his neurons and electrical signaling went through. And
Yep.
that's all important because yes, shadows, the bubbles, they connect to memories. And that's where I'm like, who are we talking about when we talk about the Void Century, right? Like the Gorosei and these guys somehow wiped memories. Like whether it's the people closest to them, whether it's like the whole world, at some point, memories are in play here, right? If it looks like what Sugar did on Dressrosa, sure. But we have 2 points. Kuma can take out memories, Shadows can take out memories. There's multiple data points, and that's where the Blackbeard video connects to it, where I'm talking about like how basically his power is memory related. The darkness is memory related because he absorbs everything. He doesn't necessarily erase everything. He absorbs all pain and amplifies it, which is when, since Oda's making that the darkness thematic here, the darkest characters in the series right now, right? Like Gorosei and Imu, we're seeing them do this stuff, and it's in our face. And like I want to point out, like I know a lot of people. Dak's camera's not here. I'll be here for a second, and then I'll fix the camera on that side. But like, Dax, like on 1085 when we see like the tail or arrow, whatever, and I'm gonna ask you about that later.
The YouTube thumbnail. That's what King Recon was calling it, like the thumbnail attack.
Yeah.
Arrow. Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we do get highlighted, and Oda's like almost never done this, is a divergence from a shadow to a physical thing, whether it's physical, whether it's shadow thing. You see like this like, when has Oda done this? Like, go show me. Like Oda's highlighting this for a reason. I think shadows are going to be important, but like, and that's at the end of the day like what my video is about. And I think Dax was bringing back to the surface in terms of the importance when it comes to the Holy Knights, because it's like,
Yep.
you can do so much with shadows, and this is just one of the max possibilities. And this is like a possibility that sounds cool, but that doesn't mean that it can't come up in other ways, right? And the next thing I want to ask you, but I want to get to the super chats before we go there. Let me bring it back to us. So just hold on to this. Is like, I want to ask you about your perspective on the Holy Knights now that we got Figarla and Garling after you made your Holy Knight video. So hold on to that, and then I see an interesting question real quick before I get to the super chats. It says, Imperial X, hey Par, is it possible for Vegapunk to copy Kuma's power and combine it with Mother Flame, and it just teleports Lucia somewhere else like Sabaody? We have no understanding of what S Kuma has. Is that green blood, or is that like his actual devil fruit? Like, because the real Kuma body I think still has the paw fruit, so, and the S Kuma also has the paw fruit, so is it possible for him to copy it? Yes, I believe so. And as far as what it's capable of thereafter, bro, you tell me. That shit is bloated. That you could do so much with that. I don't even know.
I would think like it doesn't actually teleport you, or it's not supposed to, right? It's supposed to like send you flying for like several days or something, is like how it was said.
Yeah,
but we also I think at the beginning of Egghead, whenever they had S Bear, I think they said like, send us to the island, and like there should have been stuff in between them, and they did. So I don't know exactly how it works. I guess is what all I was gonna say. I don't know if he could teleport an island like that or not.
So
I honestly don't know.
Luffy, when he landed on his bubbles, he thought he was gonna die. and he was afraid like, oh man, like my crew can't survive this kind of thing. But then he bounced because of the bubble, and he was like, oh, I'm fine, and it's not because I'm rubber. And that was like implying that like the rest of his crew's gonna be fine because of Kuma's thing. And I kind of thought about that, and I was like, what if Kuma like didn't want to protect you? Or another sense, like, what if Kuma just sent you faster, right? Like he's maybe the 3
he
days
do the same thing, but with the intention of killing you. Like, I'm just gonna send you going
instantly, like
3,000 miles an hour into the red line, and you're just gonna die.
yeah,
like
like we don't know.
who's gonna survive that.
Like maybe
Also,
he just
big
did
W, Ronnie Williams, by the way.
Oh,
He just donated 10 memberships.
10 memberships. Thank you, Ronnie Williams. I'm gonna repeat
W.
that when I get to that in the super chat.
Oh, and Trevor with the super chat right after. The whole fam's coming.
Oh yeah, Trev. He said he was gonna be here. We were talking. Woo, got some fun. The funny shout outs to Trevor. He does your actually the video we're gonna talk about. He did that thumbnail, right?
He did the Shanks one and the Shadow Binks, and also the Man Marked by Flames one. Yep.
Oh, but we're gonna so this is just Trevor's show then, because
this is the Trevor show.
Yeah, because my next few thumbnails are also Trevor. So shout out to Trevor, amazing artist. We'll be highlighting a lot of him in the future as well. But what was I gonna say? So I'm gonna get the super chats, but the like I think Kuma just the 3 day thing. I kind of sat there and like, what's stopping him from doing it slower or faster? Like maybe he could have just done it in a day and it would just logistically not work out. Because I forget who I was talking to about this. I think it was Sai, and it was, or Randy, one of them, about how all the islands were chosen for specifically. The one that I cannot explain is Robin. Like Kuma is so out of pocket for sending Robin to Tequila Wolf to be like enslaved for like a few days or whatever.
Well, okay, so you're 100% right, but the one thing I will say is Kuma had to know something because he was in the Revolutionary Army, and that's who she ended up being with over the time skip. So it's like, for example, maybe he knew that the Revolutionary Army was going to come to that part of Tequila Wolf soon, right? Something like that. Soon. That's the only thing that gives it an okay, because you're right. It's like, Robin, I'm going to send you to the coldest place. There's only slaves. There's no way to get off. You have a devil fruit. You can't even go in the ocean, really, and like swim away.
Right.
You would die. You would freeze to death anyway.
No, and so like people are saying like he sent there for Dragon. So why not just send her directly? Why not? We know Dragon doesn't move. He's at Baltigo the entire time. He could just literally send her there. But like,
I guess it's so she can learn firsthand what's going on. But she could just be told that also.
Not that her entire
Dragon
life has
go with Dragon first. It's like, hey, Kuma said I gotta go see the Tequila Wolf, and it's like, okay, I know. Yeah, let's go. I'll show you.
Yeah, like because people forget, like she was only fine there because that was her entire life until she met the Straw Hats, and like, and so I forget who it was again. Someone recently I talked to. And they were like, maybe Kuma just forgot what day it was. And so like he missed, like they were going to go there and they got delayed, or like he was like,
the plans just changed.
It was 3 days, or is 6 days, not 3. Oh, I'm so sorry, Robin. Like,
yeah, my bad. Dragon decided to go a day early and he already left.
Yeah.
Shit, my bad. Like, and there would have been no way to like help her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at least Luffy's on like a full island. Now, obviously, like it could have gone way worse than it did. But like at least if you're on an island with like trees and plants so you can eat and there's water, it's like, okay, you can survive. Like Robin, no. Like there's no food or water except for the world government guys. I don't even know what you want to call them.
And let's not forget that before he sent, like, I forget who he said it to first. He's like, where would you want to go on vacation? Like, and then
Robin goes there.
And then like the worst part I think is like Robin's wanted, and he sent her like to the only place that Celestial Dragons like have a direct tie to. It's like any of the other places would have worked.
Oh my god, yeah. Man, Kuma had to know. He had to have some info.
Oh wait, you know what I will
say this also real quick though. Also, the Revolutionary Army has always called Robin like the light of the revolution.
Yeah,
like they've known how important
they
she
wanted
is
to smother that light out real quick.
So it's like, so for me, it's like Kuma knew how important Robin was this whole time, like in a good way. You know what I mean? So So it does seem bad, but I would almost bet they talked about it beforehand or something. You know
The-
what I mean? Like they knew.
I just thought of something, and this is interesting for so many reasons. Because I had a theory about this in the past. And I still this is one of the thumbnails for a video that I haven't made, and I've talked about this on stream before. What if the place that Kuma was at was Tequila Wolf? That's a place owned, like, spearheaded by Celestial Dragons. There's workers. He could escape. Like, we saw the situation there. What?
So I'll say this: I like that partially in this sense. So I've been kind of working on a Tequila Wolf theory for a while.
Ooh.
Like basically, it ties to Robin's Blackbeard fight. Like whenever we fight the Blackbeard pirates,
Uh-huh.
and I know all about that side. But I've been trying to think of a better or like more to the Tequila Wolf story than what I have so far. But what I have so far, and I've talked about this several times, is I think it's just a slave factory essentially. Like it's an endless project where like they can have people be born with no documentation, and like if the parents have kids on the bridge and it's all like we're talking right now, Robin's like in a desolate cold place, right? Whatever. Well, if somebody has kids on that bridge, it's just like you just take them and there's no documentation, there's nobody who's ever going to know. Those parents are going to be thankful that the kids are taken away so they don't have to live in this terrible place, and they'll be told, oh, your kid's going off to school and you're doing all these great things, blah blah blah, keep working. They send their best regards, but really the kids just become slaves and nobody knows, right? So it's like a factory in that sense. So tying to this Kuma thing, it could be that Kuma's parents were working on Tequila Wolf, and then he was one of these kids that were sent into slavery, and that's why we see him like even as a young kid being enslaved and stuff. Is he's like almost like an undocumented child in that regard, where he's just born, put into slavery, and no one even is supposed to know he's real, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I like that actually. That would make sense because like him being on Tequila Wolf, like. Because the thing we saw in the flashback didn't look like it was Tequila Wolf, but him coming from there and then being sent into slavery after the fact, that makes sense. I like that.
And then like his body type, it's like perfect for that kind of thing. We didn't see too much as to Tequila Wolf to completely knock it out of the small slither of building from his memory. And we didn't even see other individuals. We didn't even get to see a place, right? Like we just saw like lines. We don't know what that means in the scope of like manga, and like what like Oda's never done something like that. So like, is it just white with like a gray, like, you know, mystery, kind of like Laugh Tales, like mystery place, right? Like it could be that, right? I have a few ideas, but like now that just kind of makes sense because someone asked like, do you really think Kuma sent them intentionally to those places? I'm not really convinced. I think at the end of the day, when you look at his like the situation, the alternative is Kuma accidentally sent everyone to the perfect places, right? Zoro happened to get to Mihawk, right? Perona got sent to Mihawk, and it's like those two things, like he just RNG'd both of them to the same person, or you know, and then like Nami Weather sent to Weatheria. It's like almost too perfect that
Brooke was sent into like a Satan, like they were trying to like summon Satan, and he was sent like in the middle of the ritual circle, like like there's no way that's RNG. There's just One Piece, you know, for all of its awesome coincidences that it does have, that's too much of a coincidence for me.
And then on top of that, prior to like Perona's, he asked her like, where do you want to go? And I forget in Sabaody, but I'm pretty sure like he talks to Rayleigh, and then he like, I don't know if he says something, but like it's like that context where, well, when you see Kuma use the power for himself, he's completely in control of it, apparently, right? Like he went from where Kamabaka Queendom straight to Meridra, right? Like he's perfectly in control. And as far as like Luffy going to where he is, where it's like, well, now that we know what Amazon Lily kind of stands for and like the history of it and its connection to like Rayleigh, on top of that, it's kind of like almost perfect. And then if like, you know, he needed to get to Impel Down, it's like that was like the only place he could be sent to be going there. I think every single person, like, why send Sanji to his peer, right? Like his co-captain of the Revs. There has to be a reason for that. And then on top of that, like Ivankov hadn't been there this entire time, right? So it's like, you know, the alter in that case, like, sure, you can't definitively say like Kuma chose those places yet until I put out the video that's would kind of argue for that point. But the other alternative is way crazier. If he just RNG'd the One Piece planet and he just landed in the most perfect places, yo, take Kuma to the casino, like right now. Like
Yep.
take him now, kidnap him. Like the Celestial Dragons are right. You know what I mean? Like take him. I would take him.
He would know. I mean, it's just like that amount of luck is like insane. But on the flip side, having that level of intel is also insane, because even if you ask them, where do you want to go on vacation, and they told you somewhere pretty close to those places, it's still too perfect. Like I don't think Zora would actually say, I want to go on vacation to like this desolate, you know, like dreary place with like monkey, like gorilla samurai attacking. Like, he wants booze. Like, he would want to go drink. That was literally the thing on Muggy Kingdom, is he wasn't allowed to drink until he could cover his swords and hockey. Yeah. So it's like, that is not where he would want to go for vacation. So Kuma clearly had to know something. But then it's like, how does he have that much foresight to be able to see that, right? To be able to, like, they're all going to grow, and this is the right place for them for now. It almost makes me wonder, not that he has gotten the One Piece, obviously, but is he privy to some of that information? Because Roger and Odin basically knew the future whenever they left Laugh Tale, right? Like, oh, we're too early. I wonder who's going to find the One Piece. Toki, just go forward 20 years and you'll see what you're looking for. Like, they knew the future, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if Kuma somehow had something similar, where, like, even if it's just a small bit of intel from Rayleigh or something, where he's like, oh, like, we heard about this or something. I don't know exactly, but...
Yeah, no, like, the Kuma, I think, Time Lord just sent bits over about something related to Kuma. I'm going to read that in a second. But with, like, the Kuma situation, we have that he's from a special group of people that, considering we found out about Lunarians and Onis and we still have a special group of people, is, like, you know who we found out as a special group of people? Holy Knights. Like, that's a special group of people. That's not a clan, that's not a race, but that is a special people. So it's like... You know, I'm not saying Kuma's in there, but hey, this is a guy who had direct line to the Gorosei. This is a guy who's holding a Bible. This is a guy who has, like, he was a king of a nation, apparently. Like, he has a lot of interesting connections that are still left loose. And you got to ask yourself, like, is it going to lead to something we've never heard of? Or did Oda, like, introduce something connected? And on top of that, how many of these people that we've been introduced to in like as shadows or silhouettes or as mysteries don't know about the Void Century, right? I feel like as we move on in the story, sorry to turn that into an ASMR thing, but I just need to incept that into your brain. Every single person there hereafter is like known everything, like almost like it just sort of feels like, right? Like Vigarland knows these dudes, like he knows the Gorosei, he knows Eam. There's no shot that he doesn't know Eam, right? Like that's just weird at that point.
For sure.
The Gorosei, they know, Eam knows, Odin knew, like all these mystery people, they know. Like the man marked by flames, we were gonna talk about, he has the last one. He has to have some prerogative to something, whether he knows all of it or some of it. Like, you don't just steal a giant red rock and not know things. You know what I mean? Like you just don't do that.
Yep.
Like
exactly.
So.
And real quick, I just want to say this, but before we get too far from it, you were talking about Kuma, like, being from a special race, and, like, there's all these other special races, so, like, what is going on? I think he's from the same race as Blackbeard, and they have the same kind of body. Like, you know, Blackbeard has special body. That's what I think is, like, so when Big Mom said she didn't have all the races, I think it was, like, Lunarians, Giants, and do we know the last one? I can't remember. I don't know if we do yet.
No.
I bet you it's going to be Kuma or Blackbeard's race, whatever the special part of their... Because that's why they've been or like, Blackbeard has multiple devil fruits, and Kuma...
She doesn't have...
Is that it?
I think Lunarians...
Are they even... But are Onis even, like, technically... Are they, like, extinct almost? You know what I mean? Like, I don't... It's... Yeah, like, I don't know if that counts or not, I guess.
I don't know if Kuma counts.
Kaido and Yamato are, but it's like, are those the only two... that are confirmed?
We don't necessarily know. We don't necessarily like have anything to detract from any direction. All we know is that apparently Yamato's an Oni princess, and I don't know what that means for Bonnie in terms of Kuma, like, because she's a princess, but like princess of what? Like, I don't know. Princess of Bears, the bear princess, cool. I don't really know. But yeah, real quick, Time Lord with the bits. He says, speaking of Kuma, both of y'all should look up the story of Ninomiya Sontoku. I've seen that. I've talked about that. Oda hints that in Kid Kuma picture they drew in the SBS. I watched a Tekken video on Kuma's past a while back where he goes into the name Ninokin that is on Kuma's book on his childhood drawing by Oda. The name refers to a story of Ninomiya Sontoku, who is said to be a farmer whose story led him to be king. By the way, I'm going to be mentioning this in a future video. Trevor knows. I feel like analyzing his story might allow you to, or even us, to theorize on Kuma's backstory. It's fascinating. Something specific was he was kind of like a progenitor of like, kind of like a peaceful way of living. And if I'm not skewering it, it's essentially like back in feudal days, there was like crises where they had to figure out how to distribute food, and he was like not a royal person, but he was a person that got a lot of respect for what he said. He said, let's just give everyone food. What are you guys doing? What are you buffoons doing? And then everyone's kind of like, what? But what about the royals and nobles? And he's like, just get everyone food. What do you mean? We're all dying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's
it's not that hard.
Yeah, it's not that deep,
well,
guys.
It might be hard to implement, but it's not hard to think about.
Yeah. And then everyone was like, wait, he's right. And then he was like highly regarded as like a very amazing person, and that way of living. I let me know if I mix, because I've been reading a lot and I might be mix matching that one, but I'm pretty sure that was the story of the guy, and he got a lot of respect, and because of that, and I think that the emperor ended up like being like, thank you, that is the proper way, like we should be doing things. We shouldn't be like discriminating life when it's like at a crisis, when you're like dealing with flood and war. It's like, if you have the food, just give it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the food's gonna go bad if you, they don't have refrigerators back then, guys. Like they can't keep, they don't have pesticides and preservatives like we do. The shit goes bad, so if they're just hoarding it for the rich people, it's gonna go bad. They might as well just eat it.
And man, I know we got some more supers to get through, so maybe we can talk about this more later. I think there was a super that talked about this.
Yeah.
But the food stores in Marijois being destroyed, and then us having a Gorosei that's in charge of agriculture, and he's the one that everyone thinks is going to be a traitor. It matters. It matters, dude. That's like the biggest thing to me, is like, oh, the food stores are removed, and the one Gorosei in charge of the food is the one that people have always thought would be a traitor, and now he has Jew Peter in his name, which I know 3-Day has a big Reddit, or like a Reddit pretty post, decent Reddit post about it, that talks about that, where, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, but like, if you know the story of like Christ with like Judas and Peter and how their roles are, and then you have Jew Peter like combined into one thing, you might be able to see where some of that's going, and so that matters a lot, I think, the food angle.
In terms of the traitor thing, too, here's another thing that I think a lot of people may not know is, the middle part spelled like Jew. That could have been done in many ways. Oda chose to use a symbol that apparently gets utilized in record taking when it comes to people who committed seppuku. So that's, so they stopped using that symbol for Jew or ten afterwards, I believe, because it was attributed to seppuku, and then it got combobulated to other people who didn't commit seppuku, so it became like less used in that light. I have the tab of that. I had to close all my tabs, but when I open it up, I have that. But yeah, let me get to these super chats, because then we'll move to another section of conversation. I do want to come back to the Holy Knight stuff, but I want to get to the Man Marked by Flame stuff. So
yeah, we got to talk about the Holy Knights, the Man Marked by Flames, and then also the Mother Frame. Those are like the 3 big topics for me.
I got you. All right. So Time Lord, I want to get through this because this one's a quick one that's interesting. Buggy's name isn't Buggy the Clown. By the way, Time Lord always has some of my favorite theories. He's always so shy about it, which he says at the end. Don't stop. It's just fun. I love your theories. Honestly, your breakfast theories could be true. You can DM me about that. I'm pretty sure you have me in DMs, Time Lord. Buggy's name isn't Buggy the Clown. It's actually Buggy D Crown. Crown and clown being L and R translation thing. The Crown family was always destined to sit on the empty throne. The true king is Buggy. Just a half joke theory. What do you guys think? And what I will say on that is, you're not that far off. If Perona, for example, is related to some regard, and we have Perona, Nerona, and then we have Yeah, I know, guys. Memes. Corona. Corona does mean crown. It does mean, like a coronation, right? Like the true person gets coronated. They wear the crown. So Nerona could be the not real person, and the Corona family could be the real one, and then it could be that its name is Buggy D Corona. That'd be correct, by the way. But I wouldn't say it's a joke just yet, Time Lord. I think this month, especially Time Lord, this isn't a joke. This is not a joke. I think for a long while, yeah, I think people should not sleep on Buggy at all. Like, at all.
I like the aesthetic, just like Buggy sitting on the empty throne, because he kind of does that all the time, in the sense of like he's always at the top even though he's not what people think he is. You know what I'm It's like the complete reverse, where people think the throne is empty but Emu actually sits on it and rules the world. Where Buggy, if it like Bug people think Buggy is this hotshot emperor that's leading all these, top dogs, but he's actually not. I mean, okay, not trying to disrespect Buggy. I love Buggy, but he's obviously not as strong as, the other top people in his crew now. So it's like a complete reversal in that regard, where everyone knows Buggy's at the top, but he's not what they think he is. So I actually love that, to be honest with you. So
Yeah. I've been thinking about ways to put Buggy into the mix, especially like now that we know that Shanks has this kind of like lore, and then we also have to ask ourselves, like, when Shanks says like my hometown in West Blue, is that tying to what Figarland is mentioning with God Valley? Well, now with the officials, it's not necessarily that Figarland is the king of it, so we don't necessarily know. But what we do know is that Buggy and Shanks are the same age, and like, did Roger did he just go to Goodwill and pick up random kids? Like, how did this happen? How did he manage to get two of them at separate? It makes more sense that he got both of them kind of together, maybe like loosely separate. I don't know, but like, it's almost weirder to say that, like, yeah, sometime down the line he also picked up a random red-nosed blue-haired kid, right? Like, that's weirder. Like,
yeah, no, it is. Well, man, this is a whole other discussion, and I
yeah.
know you talked about this in a video before, but I'm just curious. So Buggy's the only person we've seen with a confirmed, like a big ball red clown nose. We've seen other things that are very close that could be viewed as the same, or like relative to it.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious. Is there an actual clown race, or is he just a mix of a bunch of races that ended in a red clown nose?
You know what? I'm gonna hit you with that. I've been holding on this for a long time. I think this would be dope in a video, but there's no... I don't know when the timeline is for this video. Trevor knows I asked for this thumbnail, but I haven't come up with a thought. But it's coming soon, so exclusive. Okay, so there's a real world thing. You guys can look it up. It's called Red Nose Day, where you essentially wear a red nose, or you buy a red nose, and the money goes to kids and their like leisure time and happiness. It's basically all for kids. That's the entire point of the charity. I realized that recently because all the hospital appointments I've been going to, they'd be like, Red Nose Day, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And then they're like, look, it's a red nose. I'm like, is Buggy here? And like, then that sparked an idea. Which is, oh, I love the sound on this right now. Which is, you know how the straw hat is a symbol of Luffy, and then now we have like the Flame Emperor Sabo, and like, Preach, if he's still here. One of my favorite theories is like the you see in the revs, they're all wearing goggles. And it's like Sabo's been there, blah blah. Are they wearing it because of Sabo, or is it just like Oda decided to make all the revolutionaries in the story wear goggles, just like Sabo, with a hat, just like Sabo? And then we also see like when Luffy leaves Fishman Island, or the Tataras or Dressrosa, I forget what other nations, but they're like, I want to wear a straw hat. This is the hero's hat. That's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pepe Kingdom, which is the best name for it, the red nose is gonna become a symbol, like a Nika symbol. Like, we're gonna see a bunch of people donning the red nose and making
like
Buggy one of the top contenders for like the warrior. Everyone, there's gonna be a bunch of people wearing red noses in like his entire crew. We might see his entire crew, and then like Pepe Kingdom, because they like T-Bone, all that stuff. They're all gonna have red noses. We're gonna see a bunch of people with red clown noses. And as far as like what that means for like the end of the story, or what that means for like let's wonder like God Usopp, right? Like now people want long noses because he's a god, or like Luffy, like Nika, right? Like people had that image, right? I think the nose is going to become the image of Buggy, and it's going to
I
be
like that.
it's going to be interesting.
And I know Tainted Marth was mentioning this in the chat a little bit, that Emu is going to be a clown, or like, you know, like Emu is of the same race or whatever as Buggy. And so what if they all start wearing the red nose, and then Emu gets revealed to the world, and Emu has a red nose, and then everyone's like, "Oh, they're a good guy. They're on our side." Emu is here to save us, 'cause they think they're connected. It's like, no, like they're the exact opposite. But one thing I just want to throw out there, it's definitely an out there idea, but it's something I couldn't help but notice while doing my Noland video, where Noland has the same nose as Buggy, just normal skin color. You know, like it's all one tone instead of being red all of a sudden. And so I'm wondering, did something happen where the nose became red instead of just, you know, what it should look like normally? You know what I mean?
That is interesting. I know
Complete,
exactly.
I edited this video for literally like 20 out of 30 hours over the weekend, like for like a certain stretch. Like I was doing it nonstop. And like so many times I was looking at his picture, I'm like, dude, it's just a perfect sphere, man. Like I was looking at like his like, well, they say it's like a chestnut, but really it's based on a Mont Blanc, like a chestnut dessert, what his hair looks like. And I was just like thinking like all the other connections with him. I'm like, okay, for one thing, I don't know if you ever knew this, but like his hair design is on Nika's spear, which is like such a random thing. And so there's a tie there. And I have a bunch of other reasons. I'm sure you would probably agree with them, where Nolan's like a Joy Boy-esque character. Like just a lot of things he did is very similar to what Joy Boy would do, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking, well, his nose, like, is he almost like a combo of some sort of like Buggy and Luffy in that regard? He's obviously Usopp as well, but like that just kept making like that nose, man. And I don't know how it would be red. Like we know Chopper's stories, he has a blue nose and the rest are red noses, I think. I don't know if they ever, I think that's what they are.
Well,
and
they didn't say red
so
nose,
but that, I think that would be the presumption, because it's like normally the red-nosed reindeer is the one that's cast out, and this time it's the blue nose. I think that would be it. But either way, it's like, is there some tie-in there with like those red noses? Not that Buggy is part animal, but like it. I mean, I know you have the Fishman theory, so maybe something's going on.
Like on the Nolan thing, and here's a tease to something in the future. I won't say what, but like I mentioned at the end of the Nolan video that like the reason, like Nolan being a D-Clan just makes so much sense. And now given the context of what the D-Clan could mean, that it's like a given thing, like it's not an inherent, it could have been something that wasn't necessarily a genetic thing. It could have been something that what started as a group and then got passed down, and thereafter it's genetic. But it's like I've been thinking about it, it's a mental state of mind that like you adopt, or as a descendant you are naturally inclined to, because we know that that's the case with these inherited will type of things, right? Ace, Roger,
Sabo is the example of that. I think Sabo is Oda's example of that whole thing, where like you don't need to be born into any certain family to have the D. Like you could, and that's how a lot of people do it. But I think Sabo's an example.
In a lot of ways, right? Without Ace or Luffy, what would Sabo be doing? He would have given up, right? Like he gave up probably before Ace, and then after, when the Great Terminal thing, he almost gave up until it was like Dragon and Ace, and both of them combined ended up creating an intervention where like Sabo was like, everything's fine now, right? So yeah, like the D thing, I definitely see like Nolan being similar, Joy Boy canon similar, talked about that at the end, and there's so many data points for that, and it's growing too. But what one last thing, and then I'll get to more super chats, is I see that One Piece talk coming in. What's up, handsome, what is it say, handsome guys? Yo, what's up Larry and that One Piece talk? Yeah, shout out to them cracking 40k.
Big talk.
Yeah.
Big One Piece talk.
Making moves, making waves, splashes, tsunamis even. And hey, there may or may not be more of me and more of them all combined in one package on a stream in the future. I can't spoil too much. But Mega Migs says Patch Adams, I don't know who that is, I'm assuming it's a name. Interesting name. Believed the mental state of the patient was just as important as their physical state and wore a red nose to make hospitalized children laugh. I guess that could be connected to the Red Nose Day thing. So I'm definitely going to be looking into that. And, you know, in lieu of all of the things I could have leaked, I'm happy to share that one because, I donated to the charity. I might be in the future. But if you guys come across them spontaneously, I know a lot of pharmacies are aligned with them. Feel free. From what I understood, they do good things. And if they don't do good things, let me know in my Discord. Let me know if you guys, you know, I know some of you guys go research super hard on those things, which you should with these organizations. Definitely let me know if you guys know anything about this group. But what is Larry saying? I look at 3 chats of his, and he's you're handsome in the super chats,
and now I want you to take your shirt off, both of us.
And then he plugs a website that I'm like, yo, hello, you're a mod, brother. Hello, I'm trying to get sponsored on this thing. Come on, Larry. Let me see though. Let's see. Let me get the super chats. That One Piece Talk $10 super chat says, so Par, did you and Dax already take off your shirts like you said you would? I'm trying to see something. Larry is guy. By the way, guys, this is all times of the day, Larry. This doesn't stop, but let me tell you, his Twitch streams at night, they get pretty loose and goosey. So shout outs to Larry for that, giving you guys all the good stuff there for free, not paywalled.
Real quick, I just want to ask you a question, then please burn through all the super chats because I know they're stacking up, but I just had one question I wanted to ask you. Just going back to the Nolan stuff real quick. I asked it in the chat too. Do you think Usopp's family name is going to end up being Mont Blanc? Mont Blanc Usopp.
I've been playing with this idea, you know, ever since that video. It's like, is he there or is it like he fell in line? It's hard. I don't have a definitive thing. All I know is, like, you know, Oda drew his mom's nose very particular, and it's very particular with Tantada's. It's like you can't look anywhere else in the series and see a similar nose, and I wonder what Oda's trying to do with that. And another thing,
it's iron sights. They're natural iron sights. That's why he's a good sniper, bro.
Yeah, and
that's part of my theory.
And that's interesting because it's Usopp's mom, and Usopp's dad's been highlighted for a lot. And you guys know my short. I've been highlighting Usopp's dad, which we won't name, but Usopp's dad, he technically was. We don't necessarily have the timeline on Ben Beckman, but from chapter 0, what we can see is Yasopp is actually the first person Shanks recruits to his crew, because he does it in chapter 0 before Usopp is born.
Yep.
And I wonder if Shanks went out of his way for Yasopp. And yeah, he has a reputation, but like, you go out of your way for somebody for a reason. And given the amount of stuff that we found out about Shanks, especially recently, I wonder if Yasopp, maybe, you know, I'm not going to say verbatim, but like, if you guys were here for what I said about Frankie and where his possible roots are from, maybe Yasopp ties into that. Because if you guys remember, Frankie wasn't the only one with the star mask in that arc. Usopp with Soge King had that. So I'm not going to repeat exactly. If you guys weren't there, definitely go watch that back in the VOD or try to sift for it. You know, I like my new, you guys will notice a new thing with my future member content. I'm creating wild goose chases, but they're not wild. They're like goose chases because they're in there. You just got to find them. And it's a lot of fun. Like I did a member call before this, and the guy was laughing because it's like, wait, did you actually put that in a stream? I was like, yeah. And he's like, this too? And every single thing I teased in that call, he was like, no way. All of these things. Like, yeah, it was all in a single stream. He's like, what? And I told everyone who's listening to the members when this video gets posted to members, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But I made it fun. It's like a word search, you know. And
I like that. I like that.
yeah, it's gonna be fun stuff. And so with that, let's highlight Ronnie Williams. Well, I'm gonna read it backwards and then get to the super chats at the beginning, so they're not further stacking up. Which is Ronnie Williams gifting a membership to someone. I guess that's a name, unless it's just a random. Thank you, Ronnie. Terrible TJ gifting a membership to Nox OP. That's dope. Again, there's gonna be a lot more membership content in between, and there's still a Lost Aokiji Logia Awakening theory from like October that I just haven't edited. And I just, you know, in terms of everything that's happened, it still lines up.
It's so funny you say that. In my Nolan video, I literally, like, at the end, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry this took so long, and like I have like a date, like with like the Nolan folder in my computer. It's like date created like September, and it's like this is finally getting made.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And it's funny because that Aokiji video continues to make sense even with what we see. There's something I said in that Aokiji video that happened in his fight with Garp, and I was like, if he does this, that's what this means. And then it happened, and I was like, oh, perfect. So it's like it still lived up. So that's dope to see. I don't need to change that video anyways. But we'll see if it continues. Otherwise, I'll edit it, post it to the masses. But Ronnie Williams gifting a membership to Drester, another membership to Playboy Johnny Carter. Shout out to Johnny Carter. Let's see. Atlas 100 member for 2 months in a row. Yo, Par, did you catch my super chat about Buggy? I did not, but I will be getting to them right now. Let me just click off of these. Oh, XL Bean. Wait. Oh my God, there's a bunch
Bean
of
Boy?
XL
Bean Boy?
XL Bean Boy became a member. Thank you. Appreciate you. Is that one the Sake Boys?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I love Bean Boy. Bean Boy's a day one.
Gotcha. And we got Azagast becoming a member. Appreciate you. We got King Craw, 2 months. He says this stream is amazing. Love your guys' content. Thank you, King Craw. I like your name too. It reminds me of that Pokemon.
Wait. Who? King Craw? Which one? Kingler?
No, not King. Well, Kingler could work, but like the next one, the one that was a lobster. It wasn't named that, but it's like a king and it has like claws.
Crawdon?
Yeah, that one.
Crawdon. Yeah, he's the other.
Yeah.
He's a lobster. Yeah, the other ones are crabs. But yeah.
Let me see. I'm gonna get to the super chats. I'm just going through the memberships first. Ronnie Williams with the 10 gifted memberships. Oh, my foot fell asleep. There's a bunch of people who are not falling asleep to the vision though. Tazmorn, Hamaji, Kenzan. Ooh, Kenzan. That's a cool name. TV in the Attic, Ephraim Inu, Normal Kid, Young Usopp. Shout out to Young Usopp. If you guys don't see his, aren't privy to his chapter breakdowns in musical form, because they're pretty dope. They're pretty dope.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
I love them. Rapo, Dark the God, CDs and tapes, Nasty Ninja. Thank you, Ronnie Williams, for getting those people connected to the vision. Oh my God, my
W as usual from Ronnie.
Yeah.
Or Wani as we call him.
Ronnie Williams again, another 10. God damn. We gave it to Doran, to Ace, Axe, Yuna, Nolan. Shout outs. Rabbit Head 14. Oh, Rabbit Head.
Wow, I know almost all these names.
Yeah.
Shout out to the OGs. Y'all deserve it for sure.
Sword Egg, Juan Martinez, Grand Line Bound, Imperial X. Oh, he was earlier in this. Oh,
literally
I read
every name I know. That's crazy.
And then Grand Line Bound donated too and didn't say anything. So if he had a message, definitely show that message. Thank you.
Yeah, shout out Grand Line Bound. Go check out his channel. He's another creator.
Oh,
also.
I didn't know that. Thank you. Thank you, Grand Line Bound, for supporting me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you got. Thank you, Dax, for pointing that out to me.
I love his logo.
Damn. I kind of want to see it now. I'll check it out after. It
looks like Lee J drew it. I might be wrong. It looks like Lee J's art. So I don't know if he hit him up, but it looks great. So if it's from Lee J, it's like automatically good. But
yeah, mods link his channel so people know where to go. That's dope. New names. That is something I didn't. Honestly, there's a few names, but I feel like all the names in 2023 so far I've been names that I've like known or like know of, or like, oh, that's this person from Discord or whatever. But Grand Line Bound, that's a fresh one. That's a good name. That's a woo, that's dope.
That's a good name. Got all the marketing right for sure.
You're right. King of marketing Dax approves. We got Terrible TJ gifting it to Andika. Thank you for gifting Terrible TJ, and to Brandon King. Brandon King is usually in the I don't know. Yeah, he's always in the Twitch. Shout outs to my Twitch King here, Brandon King, Time Lord here. Okay, so now super chats. Terrible TJ, $2 super chat says like to stream.
Oh,
thank you.
Everyone definitely liked D-Stream. Also, real quick, I just saw Willow Gill talk about this. Shout out to the Nuggets for winning the NBA Finals 4-1 over the Miami Heat. We're all excited about that. Go Nuggoats.
The Nuggoats. Oh, wait,
The
that's
Nuggoats.
crazy. Is that an actual thing? You just made that up? Like, are they?
I've been saying Nuggoats since they were playing the Lakers.
But like, are they brought like on ESPN? Do they like say the Nuggoats? Like, do people?
No, nobody has said it other than me, as far as I'm aware. Or the people that I've told. I made it up organically. I mean, maybe. I feel like Chuck or somebody would definitely take that name if they knew about
That's
it.
how you go viral, bro. You gotta just make up a thing where you're cheering that Nuggoats, and then it's gonna catch on.
Honestly, dude, that would definitely. Well, now we're a little bit probably too far removed from the finals, even though it's been a couple days. But yeah, just wanted to say shout out to the Nuggets. They've never won a title before. I always got respect for that. I know what it was like winning the title as a Cavs fan. So shout out Nuggets fans. Y'all deserve it.
Hey, all I'm gonna say is better late than never.
Yep.
But here we got new name, Apple of Eden. $10 super chat says, "Hey yo." Oh, and he put a pirate flag with a Jolly Roger on it. I didn't even know that was an emoji. I've never seen that actually. That's pretty dope. 1 second. I've been wondering about the similarities with Emu's and Blackbeard's Void Darkness powers. I noticed if you look at Blackbeard's real-life Jolly Roger, it's a devil stabbing a heart with an arrow. That is true. This is true. It's one of the weirdest Jolly Rogers. It looks like the if you guys remember, a few creators pointed out last 2021 that in Jaya on the map that they looked at in like chapter 254-ish, 252, around there, there's like an ancient giant on the map, like the skull map, and it looks like the Jolly Roger that he's talking about, just there's an extra thing with an arrow on it.
Yep.
As far as the question going to similarities with Emu's and Blackbeard's powers, we don't know like the full context of Emu's powers, but what I will say is, let's say that Blackbeard's power is just base Alogia, like it is darkness, right? Even though it has weird portions of it that make it seem like a Zoan and other things, like we can theorize that. Let's just play with it that it is this the darkness power, right? I think multiple routes of many theories and many ideas moving forward, especially including mine, including others, is if Emu has a mythical Zoan, what we see of mythical Zoans is that Luffy also has the power of like rubberizing things. Like, you know, the Gomu Gomu may exist in reality, or it doesn't. We don't know. But then you see like Kaido's fruit. He can breathe fire, lightning, flame clouds, like, and he's a dragon. Like, how much of that is like tied to that? And at the end of the day, what it is, it's the myths of these people create their powers. So it might be that Emu's is like the overall umbrella that encompasses where the dreams of, let's say, Blackbeard, Moria, and any adjacent powers connect, right? It might be that Emu's power is what people dreamed of. It's just Emu has all of them because they're the myth that people refer to. So that's kind of where I see it at the moment. They could be one-on-one, but I kind of like the idea that they're components. And maybe it's a component that you combine Luffy and Blackbeard and get Emu. You could do something like that too. There's a lot of routes you can go, but where are you at with that, Dax?
That's interesting. I mean, you're blowing my mind a little bit there. I mean, especially at the end, Man, I don't know. I honestly don't know because like there's a reason why the big bad of the story has like eerily similar powers to Emu. You know what I mean? Like, well, Blackbeard's like the big bad up until we met Emu. I mean, like that's like the final pirate villain. And I don't know, man. It's really. I feel like for one thing, I just got to say, Oda is like absolutely cooking with like how like he's shown us so much, but we still don't have any firm answers, which I think that is like
It's so hard to do.
obscene. Like to me, that's crazy. Like I don't even know how. Like we've learned so. Like even when Vegapunk was talking about how devil fruits work, we still even read it like, okay, there's no way that's the whole answer. Like it's crazy how that all happens. So long story short, man, I don't know. It's I don't know.
It could
Oda
go so
Oda
many directions, honestly.
yeah, Oda's hiding the mystery so well. You know what I mean?
What I will say though is in terms of like what directions to go in, I'm of the believer that when Oda leaks something, it's meaningful. So those eyes, meaningful. If you crack the code, which
Yeah.
I believe I did, and I have plenty of theories and you guys can go check them out, but I could be wrong. Go theory craft. I want to see all the ringed eyes things. I know one of my first videos in 2021 was the multiple soul like memory things, and that's just elevated from there and it continues to stick. And for me, it lines up, right? The next very strong detail is the paintbrush, which is what led me to at the end of 2022 and the beginning and going to the reverie saying that Emu's power is probably ink or brush related, painting related, and then Sai adding on the Emu's power if we're getting this water thematic and painting thing. He added like, what if it's water paints, which would be dope because water paints is such a like, I don't know, like I'm not very I wouldn't say I'm a great artist, but I'm knowledgeable of things. My wife studied art, and I went to some of her classes and helped her with projects. Painting to me is like one of the craziest ways to work, and it's also one of the older ways to work in terms of making things, because it's like the way you can affect the canvas is so flexible. You can't do any other way, and so I feel like it just lines up where it's like water. If we as a community for like 20 years or however, not 20 years, but like thought, like I say 20 years because we always thought the end stage villain would be like ocean water powers because devil fruits were a counter to that. And then we got Emu and it's like, oh, reverse the name. It's ocean. It's Umi. It's right. And then you keep on getting these things. I don't think we're wrong on that front. Then you add the eyes, you add the paintbrush, you're going to get something. This is the perfect month, guys. I like put out the ideas. I have mine. Stay strapped in. I've talked about my ideas on that front. And the next idea, as crazy and as wild as it is, it still connects to that. And I'm like, I just don't know. Like, I asked my wife if I'm a crazy person. I've told you guys this on the last stream with Randy. I told Randy a little bit, and he's like, wait, that's not that crazy. This is kind of sick. And I'm like, yeah, dope. So, yeah, see Kev Dog, like him talking about it, like he had the innate reaction when he saw like the tail and all that stuff, the ink fruit, right? So like whether the name and title of that, it's like, I think it's related, right? Like, and that's why one of the first characters,
symbolism.
One of the first characters I highlighted was Miss Golden Week, because she was able to make Luffy betray his crew with colors
Without a devil fruit, right?
Yeah,
Didn't she not have a devil fruit?
No devil fruit. The
Which
devil seed users. That's what I'm calling them. We see devil fruit powers from people without devil fruits. They're devil seeds. That's what I'm gonna stick with. So I'm gonna go with. It just fits. It fits like Oda calling them saplings. I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna throw it out there. You know.
No, I like that a lot. The thing like with it being ink, like the symbolism I think is 100% going to be there. Like we were supposed to see these, like the shadows that we're seeing now or that Emu may have or whatever, even if they are actually shadows, I think that's meant to kind of tell us like that is ink in a way, because when you have ink like on a manga panel, you can decide how things look, how they're shaped, right? Like you draw them. Well, if you can control a shadow, it's literally the same thing, but in real life. You're using the ink or the shadow in this regard to shape the thing how you want, right? Which is what we saw with Moria. So regardless of what the actual physical substance is or whatever that Emu controls, I think that is like undoubtedly like where it's going. You know what I mean? Like if it was actually ink, it would like kind of surprise me, just because like Sabo's really gonna be hurting that bad from like an ink. Like it's just like why is it so sharp? And like Conjuro has the same power almost, so it's like
Yeah.
there's like a little bit of like I don't know if it would actually be ink element there, but regardless, like the whole sentiment behind it, and like this tied to Miss Golden Week, where maybe Emu, like the ink or whatever this power is, like they can affect. I don't know if I'd go as far to say like they can affect emotions like Miss Golden Week did, but being able to affect the body like directly, through this weirdness, I can definitely see that. So
yeah, and I'm gonna shout this out now because he actually hit something I'm gonna mention in a future video. But it's not what you mentioned, it's adjacent. So I'll give you that because I'm trying not to make myself sound like a broken record with like the brush thing because I've mentioned it so many times now, but I'm gonna mention something adjacent to that in a future video, which Nasty Ninja, member for 2 months now, Visionary Crew, he said Amaterasu uses a celestial brush to change reality. Yep, that's a solid thing to look at, and I didn't personally see that like in multiple resources, and that's why I said like the thing that I'm talking about is adjacent to it. Amaterasu was empowered by something that is very important for the story, so I'll leave it there. I'm not gonna say more, but yeah, I think in terms of like the paint and like the ink thing, I think it's gonna be something along the lines. There's a reason why Oda made Miss Golden Week, then Giola. With Giola's paintings had so much intricate like foreshadow that like to this day anybody who like looks at One Piece for more than it is can look at that and be like, yeah, that definitely has something to do with the One Piece. Like even if you can't come up with ideas, you look at her painting and you're like, yeah, Oda probably did something here. Am I smart enough to figure it out? No, not necessarily. What I will add is that Conjuro is the latest and greatest installment in that, and my favorite take of Conjuro is Conjuro created the embodiment of like hatred, right, in a fireball blob. That to me, when I looked at the Gorosei, they looked like Kazenbo. And I almost wondered, are the Gorosei going to end up being like, I've been playing with this idea, this isn't going to be in a future video, in the next series at least, but I've been playing with the idea that maybe these guys are like ethereal animals, which is like Kazenbo was this fireball that was formless, but that's because Kanjuro wasn't like directing anything, right? Versus maybe could, and maybe they create like think Raijin, Enel's Raijin, where it's like an electric Buddha kind of dude, Fujin
Right.
dude. Think like obviously wind tiger, like a tiger made of wind or something like that. Like we
Kinda
have
cool.
Kazenbo, right? That exists in the story, and it's tied to emotions, tied to fire. Does that sound familiar, guys? Does this sound like, I don't know, like a very important theory on this channel? I'll let you guys figure that one out, because I don't want to continue sound like a broken record on that front. But I see. Let me read these super chats.
Well, real quick, I just want to say real quick about that, because I mentioned this in my last video also. Like, I try not to read too much into how the silhouettes look, because Oda always has them look just like that, where it's a black silhouette with the white eyes. Always. If you go all the way back to Thriller Bark, freaking Lola in her like boar form was introduced in the same way. It looked like a scary silhouette with white eyes. The numbers are introduced the same way. The one of the jailer beasts of Impel Down at least was introduced that way. So for me, because I've heard that before too, like this Kazembo's more recent, so I think that's probably why more people have been thinking about that one. But for me, I try not to read into it, because Oda does that every single time. Like every time there's like a beastly person or like a ethereal thing, like anytime, anywhere in this realm of like monsters that would only exist in One Piece, or like in fiction, like that kind of thing. It's always like that. So I'm not even saying it's not that. I always have a hard time putting stock into it because of that. Because I'm like, or why isn't it? Could just be the numbers, or like Lola, like they're all just animals, or maybe there is a Kazenbo element to it. Like
I'm with you in the sense of like, that's why I'm not prioritizing this video. But what I will say is, the reason why I don't like my idea is it's too cool. Like it's way too cool. I feel like the Gorosei it's not that they're not gonna be cool, but look at their shadows, guys. Like Oda's gonna come out with something like goofy cool. Like it's gonna be like koofy, you know, like I don't know if we're gonna make up new words, but like it's gonna be a mix, and it's gonna be
I
like
agree.
weird, but it's gonna make sense, and then it's gonna grow on you, and then you're gonna accept it, and it's gonna be like one of those things where I always go back to this moment where like
Yes.
I'm a kid watching Enies Lobby, and I'm hyped about Zoro fighting a giraffe that makes like a pasta machine. You know what I mean? Like I can't tell that to people next to me. Like, oh, what are you guys? Hey, Par, what are you
Yep.
watching? I'm watching my favorite swordman fight a giraffe. You know, like, but like we're not embarrassed. We're sitting here like, yo, when's Kaku coming back? You know, and then
Yep.
like that's an insider thing. But like you can't necessarily like it's gonna be
Yeah.
like Emu might be sick. For Garland, that's probably where Garland comes in to be like, oh man, Garland's so cool. We can talk about like to outside people, but the Gorosei is gonna might be like the designs where we're like, I don't know how to tell you this, but like this guy looks kind of like this,
Yeah.
you know.
No,
But they're
I'm
crazy
100%
strong.
with you. I love the way you put it, where like it's going to get introduced. We're going to be like, "What the hell is this?" And then over time, it's going to grow on us, and then we're eventually going to be really excited to see the rest of them. That's like how
Yeah,
that's just how Oda does. He's like, "Guys, I promise it's a good idea. Let me explain." Like
let
that's
me
kind of
cook.
the
Yeah,
and I love that you said that because in my last video I mentioned this too, where building off of that whole like Oda always shows us these beastly beings in silhouette with white eyes. Always, he always shows us that first, and then trickles in the people over time. It's like
yeah,
it's so consistent, dude. The numbers in Wano, it literally what happened. We saw all of them in that silhouette form, and then we slowly get them over time. Like with the Lola one, we saw her as the silhouette, and then very next page, she's fully revealed. It's like Oda always will do this. Like, and then with the I'm trying to think, what was the Jailer Beasts of Impel Down? It was the same thing. We see them in action with the silhouette, and then a little bit later we get the full reveals. It's super consistent.
yeah.
So
I remember.
I think it's gonna be the same thing. He trickles them in, and so Egghead, we'll see Saturn, and then we'll get the rest way later, and we'll be pumped for it because we'll be
Yeah.
waiting. But yeah.
I remember with the Impel Down one. That one is the funny one where it's just like because in the silhouette it looked like insanely cool, and then we saw like the goofy nature of it, which I wouldn't want it to go like that. I have a different perspective in this, but yeah, like largely what Dax is saying is true. Where there's two sides of the coin. Either the silhouettes are like very misleading, or they're on the nose, but like there's a lot in between those two options.
They're never as scary as you think, though.
Yeah,
Never.
that's true.
They're
That is
never
true.
ever as scary as you think. Like with the Lola thing, literally Absalom summoned the zombie generals, and then it shows Lola like Ab Sama, and we're like, oh no, like he just summoned these crazy zombies. What's happening? And then it's just this boar who wants to marry him, right? Like in the midst of him trying to marry someone else, it's like a big joke, even though it looked kind of scary. The numbers, all
Yeah,
jokes in my mind, at least. Like they weren't as strong as we thought, and they looked kind of
and they're
wacky. You know what I
childish.
mean? Exactly.
They're all like
And
babies.
and so whenever we get to the Gorosei, what I'm half predicting, I shouldn't say it's like a full prediction, like I have to think about it a little more, but I almost think they're gonna be like successfully awakened versions of the Impel Down guards, or at least Saturn will be.
Okay.
Where like what those things should have been, or what the government was hoping they would be, is like that's not what they became. And like, but the Gorosei are like successful versions of it. Not saying it's as simple as like they just gave him a Minotaur fruit and that's it. Like there might be more to it. I don't know exactly, but I think that at least with Saturn, I should say, because Saturn's going to be the first one we see probably, and he, at least if we go off like where they're positioned, it looks like he could be like a Minotaur or something with horns, like one of the Impel Down guards. So it's
Yeah.
like that's what I think Oda, at least for the first one, could be building off of that. Like, oh no, this is what they were supposed to be all along. I don't. All of them couldn't be that because there's only 3 guards and there's 5 Gorosei. But yeah, something
Wait,
like
there
that.
was 4 guards, I think.
I thought, or well, I don't. I guess it. I think there was 3 main. Maybe there were 4.
There
'Cause,
was
well,
the
there was.
Minotaur,
But
Rhino, Zebra, and the Koala. 4. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, but then but there were other guards too that like wouldn't count as the Jailer Beast guards, but
Oh
they were
yeah.
like these crazy beasts. So however you want to break it down, but yeah, and then
Oh,
and then
okay.
also and then also Sadie was also the one who like whipped him to keep to get back up and keep working.
Yeah, and she
And
had
I
a
almost
devil tail.
wonder if there's I almost wonder if there's something to read there where Sadie is like Emu. But now
Yeah.
I will say I read, I don't know if it was Sandman or Artur or one of these Japanese speaking One Piece fans that always post helpful stuff on Twitter. One of them said that it seems like Emu is male. like that, like the Japanese readers are making that assumption based off that last chapter. So that would be a bit of a difference. But yeah,
Just really quickly on that one, I've been looking at it kind of like this, where it's like the emu that Ivankov is referring to is separate from the emu that we know, and it's could be that like the Saint Emu was the original, and then this is the kid of that emu, and so it's like whether it's a guy or girl for this our modern time one, I think it's still open in my opinion, but I understand completely why people are like, oh yeah, like this makes sense. The reason why I say that though is because Ivankov is speaking off of like some random information that apparently they have, even though they're not part of the world government, and somehow both Ivankov and Cobra landed on this information. So like we have to take that with a grain of salt, where it's like Cobra, yeah, he saw Emu, but like they didn't give off any information. But Ivankov, from what we understand, did not see like or was told a credible amount of emu to make that thing, where instead he was referring to an emu of the past with a male
yeah,
with the male honorific. So I think it's still open, but I completely get why people are leaning towards that.
yeah. The thing for me with that book is I mean it's kind of headcanon, but I feel like it's solid headcanon to have, where I think that book was taken from Ohara, and so they can rely on it pretty well. You know what I mean? Because like the book says Genesis on it, and we saw
no,
Dragon.
I'm not saying that the book is not reliable. What I'm saying is that like it is the fallout of the history the same at like is what the book says is what is the same picture that is right now, or did the person pass away after the 20 kings? Like Lily wasn't in the history books, was there, was only known in the things, right? Like how many of these kings are written about and then we know exactly what happened afterwards? Like is Toki storied in there, right? Like is Toki and Emu more similar than Emu and Lily? You know what I mean? Like because Toki was a full-grown person out of the Void Century. Were they one of the celestial dragons? I doubt it, right? Like
he was born 70 years into it, or 72 years into it,
somewhere along the line. And so it's like we have to ask ourselves, like, where did she come from? Where did she go? And she had a cracked devil fruit, and you know, I like in terms of what came out of the Void Century, I'm hesitant to say that like for example, if Nico was or Joy Boy is in the Void Century, he's a devil fruit now. Like there's, and then does he have descendants? We don't know. So like on the flip side, did they get turned into a devil fruit? Did the opposite side, or did they stay as the king, or did their child get inherited? Is that why they have like childlike mannerisms, speech patterns, like that kind of a thing? Again, it's one of those things where Oda's giving us a lot without giving us all like anything, and it's more fun to like talk about it because he's like, is it a kid? Well, like yeah, he's speaking like a kid. And then are they from the Void Century? Well, we've been I think a lot of people have been flippy floppy about whether they're from the Void Century, especially now with the change about Garland Garling too. Like, is he from the Void Century? Probably not, right? Like, if he was distinguished from God Valley, then man, he had 800 years to do nothing, right? Like, so
I don't know. For me, I mean, you know, it's headcanon. Like Oda can change, you know, do whatever at this point. Like there's no confirmation, but I feel like the fact the book was Genesis and they have all the connection to Ohara, I feel like we can rely on that. I doubt Oda would tell us that, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's, even though they have the same name and all these things are laid out, it's not going to be Emu or something, like, or it's Emu's like descendant. Like I don't think it's going to be that. I personally, I would have to assume that it's at least that Emu's body, if not possessed by someone else or something.
So let me ask you this then, real quick, because we're not going to touch on this. We'll get to some more super chats right after this, but are you on the boat that when Dragon showed us the silhouettes of the Holy Knights, Garling was in there?
I mean, some of them were cut off to the right hand side, so I don't know, but like I mean, this is kind of like my own headcanon because it ties to my theory about the God's Knights, but I think it could be like Shanks was supposed to take over the position from him. You know what I mean? Like be the new, because like he's obviously old. At least he looks kind of old. Garling does, right? Kind of, at least kind of. if not really old. And so I think Shanks. So like whenever we see the silhouettes, it could be that like Garling was left off of there because Shanks was supposed to take his spot, and maybe Shanks is a God's Knight like theoretically, but because he was taken away, like Garling had to come out of retirement is almost how you could look at it. You know what I mean? Like instead of retiring, he had to keep working. So it could be like Oda's misleading us in that regard, but I don't know. It's I think it's kind of hard to say honestly.
Yeah, because like Trevor actually said said Garling for sure is the guy in the front. He didn't have the moon hair when he was young. So like if Dragon knew of this guy when he was younger, maybe at God's Valley, because Dragon was like 14 or something at the time, and maybe he did know about the things. If he was Garp's kid, like maybe Garp told him, maybe he knew about him, maybe he met them, right? Another route is my version of it was that Dragon knew of the Holy Knights by relations, and so like all the silhouettes are people that we do know. They're just related to those people, and so like Dragon doesn't necessarily know what all the Holy Knights look like. It's that like these are people that he knows that are in between, and so like Shanks is like that's the closest thing to silhouette because he knows it's related to Shanks. He just doesn't know what the main guy looks like, especially anymore. So if it's like, even if you went to the logic of like he knows that Shanks is related to him and he knows what Shanks looks like, that's the image that he has. And if like that's what Garling looked like in the past, sure, that could double down on that too. So like that's kind of been my runaround, and the reason why I say that is because then you have a similar thing where someone's referring to like this entity by their children, right? So like now if Garland was referred to by Shanks one way or the other, either by image, likeness, or just by hereditary reasons, then boom, you have a parallel in Emu being hereditary in likeness, power, whatever, to the originator. And you know, again, that I didn't say any of that to counter what you said, because this is this month, and I'm telling this to the chat too, this is the month of freedom, guys. This is the month of
honestly though.
Yeah, we
no
need
spoilers, which is everything.
I honestly think we need the entire community to go buck wild, because like I actually told a creator the first 3 hours of research of after 1086. I got off the stream, got off the thing, slept, researched for 3 hours, and I told him the first 3 hours, and he thought it was crazy. But he also at the end of it was like, wait, this is crazy enough that this could be like why we're getting all these different directions, right? And my response to that was, hey, like I'm also open to being wrong, but I think that people need to be like wilder. I think like the Gorosei and Emu, and like if there was any data point for us to be crazier, it's their names. It's their names, guys. Like the Gorosei's names are so jam-packed that is the audio lagging, or is it just the video?
Yeah, that's why I just asked that same question.
We have same for Garland in the chat. Okay, it's both. Okay, so I see dropped frames 2000. It stopped though, so it should catch up in a second. Let me know if it's good now, guys. Yep, the message is gone.
Real quick, just a couple things. I see everyone's they're trying to figure out which one of us are sine and cosine because we keep going on a tangent. So I know, I love the joke, honestly. But real quick, so everyone wants you to catch up on the super chats, Par, and I really need to go to the bathroom real quick, so we're just gonna accomplish both those things at the same time. If you want to like try to go through those, and I'll be right back in just like a couple minutes.
Sounds good. I'll take care of some of them. I'll save some for you though. Real quick, Peachy, welcome. I saw Mega Migs talking a bunch in the thing. Let me see. Oh, and Vero. I'm gonna read these. Keep in mind, guys, I do read through a lot of the chats. Recently, I've been less so afterwards, but that's because I'm super busy. Like, I told Dax how many videos, and I actually gave him like visual proof, and he's like, "What? Yeah, this break month was made for me." Like, it's crazy. I have so many things to get out, guys. 3 new videos on top of all the stuff that I backlogged, and I just gotta thank all the artists who are dealing with me right now. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Lee J. Thank you, Hani. Appreciate all of you. And all you guys supporting me during the break week. Oh, actually, one thing that I will announce before get to the super chats is tomorrow I have a big stream. It is a sponsored stream. I haven't been reading chat. I have been reading the chat. I just can't respond to all the chats. Otherwise, I'm going to interrupt Dax or like go on more tangents, Memoji. I'm trying my best here. Hey. One of the guys knows I before the super chats, I read their chat. But what was I going to say? Tomorrow, big stream. I think it's around 1 p.m., 2 p.m. I have to remake that stream actually. Oh shoot, I forgot about doing that. When Dax comes back, I'll do that. He'll understand why I need to take a quick second. So, big stream. It is sponsored. We're gonna be doing a tier list of the raids in One Piece. So we're gonna be ranking all the raids, which is like, you know, I'll talk about that more at the end of the stream and tomorrow. Basically like the entry to like fights, entry into like the battles. I feel like that's something that's slept on, but there's some ones that are memorable that I want to reminisce on, especially because like we're getting to Egghead territory coming back, so curious about all that. But let me just do this, do that, lives. Okay, let me read the super chats and then we'll get back. Young Usopp, $10 super chat said, during Egghead, Shaka told Robin that a certain archaeologist found the tech on Egghead. Could this individual have been Rox, Robin's dad, perhaps? The reason she got her epithet due to being Rox's kid. Interesting. I'm assuming you're not necessarily saying Robin's dad is Rox. You're opening up the possibility that they're one and the same, but you're also saying Rox or Robin's dad. If it were Rox, that's interesting because the Iron Giant got put there by the Celestials, I believe, like, or it got lost or something, like they removed it because they couldn't destroy it or something like that, and then it got on that island, and then I guess an archaeologist found it.
What's the current question?
Oh, we didn't get too far. Young Usopp says, during Egghead, Shaka told Robin that a certain archaeologist found the tech on Egghead. Could this individual have been Rox or Robin's dad, perhaps? I guess one and the same. The reason she got her epithet due to being Rox's kid.
I would doubt that she can't be Rox's kid because of the timeline, right?
I think a few people have played with the timeline and made it make sense. I think she's
30 right now, and so Rox would have had to not die at God Valley.
Yeah, I think there was some ideas. I wasn't really on board with a lot of them, but they're, you know, maybe Blackbeard's dad. You know, maybe.
Well, real quick, the reason why I guess what I'm saying is I like both answers. They just can't be the same answer, right? So it's Rox. Like Rox is a good answer, and Robin's dad is a good answer. Robin's dad's pretty obvious, but the reason why Rox is a really, really, really good answer is because Blackbeard's obviously like the new Rox, quote unquote, however you want to look at that, right? He's like carrying his will, and Blackbeard would be an archaeologist in real life. Right, his history is one of his biggest hobbies. Is gambling and history. So for Rox to have done the same thing a long time ago, that actually makes a ton of sense. I don't know if I would go as far to say that's definitely it or anything like that. You know, I don't know if we'll ever get that revealed. I think Robin's dad would actually be a cooler idea, especially because like this has been a pretty Robin-centric arc, talking about a lot of O'Hara and like she found out Saul's alive and all that. So that'd be really cool. But Rox does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I one way or the other, I do like it. Like Dax was saying, that's just kind of what I was getting at when he got in here. I was like, it one or the other. Like at the end they were saying like the epithet, blah blah blah. But being Rox, I don't think that necessarily needs to tie the both together. But what I would say is, the option being possible is kind of sick. I actually didn't remember about the archaeologist that discovered the island, because what I want to say is maybe it was 200 years ago, so like there's a lot that happened in between, and we don't necessarily know like when did Vegapunk discover that island, right? Like, and how old is Vegapunk? I don't know if we know those answers to it. Like we
do know how old he is. I looking that up for my video because I was like, if this guy is the same age as Einstein when he was doing the Manhattan Project, I'm gonna lose my mind. But no, he's 65.
How do we know that?
It was mentioned in one of the chapter 1066.
That he's 65. It was mentioned.
I think whenever it's the wiki has it. I'm going to look up the exact chapter, but the wiki has that as the source. It was probably like in like an introductory. I don't know if that's when we first met him, but it's probably like Vegapunk, scientist, 66 years old, whatever,
Interesting. Okay. Oh, I see it on the wiki. I didn't know that. Honestly, that's an L on my side, guys. I should have known that, honestly. Oh, we even have a birthday already.
That's crazy.
Blue Deep, August 9th. Wait, what's Einstein's birthday?
I'm gonna bet it's August 9th. Einstein.
Nope, March 14th.
Oh, there's no bro. Wait, no way.
What?
It's just that's amazing, just for a lot of reasons.
Wait, that's Pi Day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wait.
I don't know if everyone. I'm sure most people know that, or know what that is. But
Yeah, but why did you jump and shout?
Just that's just the universe, dude. Like, how is that even possible that Einstein was born on Pi Day?
Yeah. I thought you're like cooking with a theory.
Well, there's definitely some stuff that I'm gonna start thinking of now that I know that. But that it's just the sheer fact. That's the thing. Yeah, and he also died April 18th. So like, it's not even like Vegapunk's birthday is like the day Einstein died. So I don't know why August 9th, but
yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, hey, like the archaeologist thing, I'm gonna look more into Young Usopp. If you have a video that talks about that, feel free to share that with the mods so they can post that up.
Oh, real quick, the reason we know Vegapunk's age is because when he was introduced in his younger form on Ohara, it says he was 43.
You're right.
Yeah, like in his little introduction, that was 22 years ago. So he should be 65. Didn't the wiki say he was 66, or am I misremembering? Whatever, it doesn't matter either way. We know the age.
Shouting out to Ronnie is what he's saying here. He says Shanks was supposed to take the position of the house, but like Garland currently, but he was saved and sent away. Yeah, there was I think Randy also brought up the idea that like he was like there was some kind of like scuffle for the leadership and he got pushed out, or it was Sai, and so like Shanks was hidden or sent away. There's a few interesting logic lines for that, so I do like that.
Yeah. I do want to bring this up because I bring it up all the time, and I know it's not usually a popular thing to bring up, but we don't have confirmation that Shanks is even a figurland yet. So like a lot of the theories are like based off Shanks being this guy's son or some kind of descendant. But Film Red didn't even say that outright. Like you could probably presume it or assume it, but it is not confirmed. So I always like mentioning
4 billion say that? No,
it's not. It was during the movie was the only time, or the volume 4 billion may have like said the same thing that was in the movie. But if you go to the wiki, regardless of whatever source, it's not confirmed. And what was said was like, oh, is that Uta's dad? Well, does that mean she's a figurland? So it's like you could presume, oh, well, if they're saying Uta is Shanks' daughter and she must be a figurland, then you could presume that Shanks is a figurland. Again, it's just not confirmed. Like I feel like it's a safe presumption, but I feel like there's a reason it was said in that way and not, Shanks is like, oh, well, that must mean she's like guaranteeing it. It's like a hint, like, oh, does that imply there's some connection to the Figurland family then? It's like, is it maybe because like her hair is half white and half red, and it's like maybe that, I don't know. I don't know what the actual answer is, but I think Oda's leaving it ambiguous because whatever the connection is, because there is some connection, it's probably not as clear as we think. Like it could be that he's the son, but what if Shanks was meant to be a clone of one, so he is a figurland, right? It's like, oh, like a figurland clone had a child, like that's not good, so that's all I'm saying is like it's left ambiguous, I think, like a little bit, so Oda can play with it. Like there's gonna be something, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Nasty Ninja said like, what if Buggy's the figurland? Like that'd be kind of sick, right?
I would love that. I bet you he is gonna be something like that. Like maybe not a God's Night, specifically or related to it, but there's gonna be something with Buggy's. It's
me
guaranteed.
read this. Atlas 100, if you're still here, you asked me this if you got to the super chats. I'm gonna skip just because I see it, and he gave me 20. I forget what CHFs are. It's character. No, that's damn, I forgot what I called it last time. CHF, whatever that is. He said, "What if Buggy is Figureland?" And there's a quid pro quo. I only read that weird because you put it all in one word and then like you left off the D. The qui is it sometimes say qui pro quo? Like it's just all in one go. But there's a quid.
I think it has hyphens in between.
Yeah, quid anyways. Pro quo / mistaken identity between Shanks and Buggy at birth. Also, Garling has a crescent moon hair. Buggy could have a red moon nose. Check Mesopotamia symbolism red moon. Okay, let me see. I'll pull that up. Yeah, like Buggy having like various importances. Like again, like why is Oda hiding Buggy's thing this hard, right? We're starting to get Shanks's possibly, but like Dax is saying, what if it's not Shanks? What if it's actually Buggy? You know, it's like that'd be kind of funny.
Yep. Or like Shanks is maybe like a half Figureland. Like, what if he's half Figureland, half D, and it's like he was cast out of like the society or something whenever they found out about that, and so like he is Figureland, but not like in the sense that Garling is. I don't know exactly. By the way, I also want to say this. It's Garling, and I see a lot of people always saying Garland, and I prefer Garland just because. So I know we were talking about basketball earlier. Everyone here is a Cavs fan. I'm a big fan of Darius Garland, so you can keep calling him Garland, but it is Garling. I don't know if that's important at all, but I don't know. The name is like kind of random to me. Like I don't know. It's like a I don't know. It sounds so like fancy, kind of. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It might be something there.
I one of my theories completely dissects his name. I think I got a good idea, but it's not the Garland part. My logic on it isn't so crazy, but I haven't seen people talk about it. I don't know. The only reason why I'm withholding it is because it doesn't lead us to any other conversation. So if I'll tell you later, possibly. But okay. The red moon thing that he's talking about, pretty interesting. According to and this is just the very surface level reading. The blood moon symbolizes the death and downfall of a king. Few Native American tribes and Mesopotamians, it's like apparently have similar mythologies around this, but think that the moon turns red when it is deprived of love and care. Therefore, a blood moon meant that the moon needs affection, and that's kind of interesting. I say, hey, and the thing, it's like the moon stuff. Like, the moon's important. We gotta figure that out.
And doesn't that happen during an eclipse of some sort?
When does
the moon actually turn red?
Yeah, when you get certain eclipses, a full eclipse, it'll look red. I think it's not a lunar eclipse though; it's a solar eclipse when the moon.
Yeah, it's some kind of eclipse. Well, millions of people will have the opportunity to see a lunar eclipse, an event popularly known in the media as a blood moon, on Friday, July 27th.
Oh yeah, blood moon's a little bit different though.
Yeah, but same thing. Is just like I wonder if that could also.
Yeah,
that was a couple years ago. It's not this summer, by the way. I was reading an old article, but yeah.
But yeah, blood moon, red moon, like that. This is what you're talking about, not the eclipse. The eclipse is separate than what this is referring to. What you're referring to is the right thing, not what I was saying about. What I can say is I'm looking at Buggy, Frankie, and Usopp for a certain reason, and I'm not gonna tell you why. Yuna with the 250 says, on this stream, it's not just him, it's them. I'm assuming it's because we got the boys, you know.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Christian Chagaruli, that's a cool name. $5 super chat says, do you think Blackbeard's dark fruit has any connection to the powers shown from the Gorosei? Yes and no. I think, and we discussed this lightly before, but you framed it in a different way. So my answer right now is the mechanism of how Blackbeard acquires power might be important for how the Gorosei attained power. That's kind of where I'm at, and if that sounds confusing to you, my Blackbeard video will enlighten you on what I mean, because I explained the mechanism. It's way too lengthy, but at the end of the day, what we have to realize, I feel like with the Gorosei, is either they're from the Void Century or they're not, but they don't seem to have like an omnipresent amount of knowledge. Like they don't have the kind of knowledge you would think that like overlords of the world for 800 years should have, but at the same time they do feel like they been around the block for 800 years. It's like it's like it's Oda's playing this teeter-totter game. We have to kind of wait for that, you know.
I wonder if it's that what like the youngest one, Jupiter, like if he is a new one, like as if like one got killed at some point in the past and he replaced him, and that like gives us the air of like not knowing as much because he doesn't, because he's new, as where the other guys do know. So like it gives us the feeling of like them not knowing everything. But like for example, when we were talking about like Luffy's fruit, when we didn't know they were talking about Luffy's fruit, but it ended up being that like right before he awakened it, they were like, why was the name hidden from history, like blah blah blah, and he was the one asking that, like, well, why did the government hide the name then? And it's like, okay, well, like that tells us that they don't know everything, but it's also him asking that, like he maybe has not heard of this yet, you know what I mean? Like he's getting up to date. Like they're all like, oh man, we thought we were done with this BS, like, you know, like he didn't even want to, like they didn't even tell him, because it's like, why bother sharing that information until he needs to know it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not 100% sure that he was replaced. I just think that's like a cool idea, but you're right. It is weird where like they have a lot of information like they're from 800 years ago, but at the same time, they don't have all the answers from the last 800 years. So it's like a weird kind of combo there.
Also, their naming scheme is so odd, where it's like Saturn and Mars could be family names, but Venus, that's a weird one to be like
Will of V. Like, hey, don't sleep.
Yeah, like you know, I broken down their names, and it makes sense, but I still am curious of how that relates. Like Jupiter and like that name isn't like like, unless you're naming your child Jupiter, right? Like, are you the Jupiter family or are you the Peter family? Or like, how did they essentially get that name and why? And it's weird. It's weird, but like, I'm sure Oda will tell us, because that's honestly why I feel like they're the originals, because like their names are so contrived almost that it's like weirder for them to like inherit this role and then be like, well, your name was Shepherd, we're gonna add Shepherd Tur, we're gonna add a Jupiter in there, you know. It's like, it's a little weird. So you know, and that's looking a little deep, but you know, I wonder where Oda's gonna go with that. So thank you for that one. Let me see. Ooh, okay, so we cleared out a decent chunk, because this is where Ronnie goes on this membership rampage here. Trevor with the $5 super chat says, love the pain bubble talk. Do you think that pain bubble stuff has to do with what Zoro want to ask Vegapunk? Could that apply to swords? Trevor is so scary, by the way, because like, you know, like spoiler alert to you guys in the chat who are not our artists, but we have to divulge some information about our videos when we ask for the thumbnails. And like Trevor is scary. I tell him because it's fun, and then he says something, I'm like, stop talking right now. This is so funny. But like,
that's funny.
Yeah, I think the memories and sword things is applicable, and yes, I think Zoro wanted to ask Vegapunk and Kuma, because he also after the time skip, he says, I have a lot of things to ask Kuma. Like he said that on his own. And then like what happened afterwards, after the Kuma situation, you almost got to ask yourself, like, I wonder if Zoro saw some of Kuma in that bubble. Like, and so like, you know, all the mysteries behind Kuma, what Kuma did. Zoro was also the first one there when he showed up on the thing, so I'm pretty sure he got to see Kuma. And so like there's in a whole slew of context where it makes sense that I think Zoro wants to ask about the memories, what happened to him, how that happened, but also specifically probably about like Kuma and like something he like has been confused about. And the reason why that's important is because it probably relates to the sword stuff as well. Considering Zoro just recently dealt with Enma, who had like the memories of some entity that like held true from Odin, and various implications there. But what do you think about that, Dax?
I would say first off, Zoro, whenever he got to Egghead, the question in the Viz was I have a question, but the official and what seems to be more accurate is we have questions for Vegapunk, like the crew does.
Yeah. The scan said I, but then the Viz said we. Is what you meant?
Yeah, the official is we. The right version is we, not I.
Yeah.
So that completely changes a lot of things because I think all the stuff you just said. I mean, it's not even like it's ruled out, but I think all that stuff you said is important and stuff he is going to ask. But I feel like that'd be more stuff he would want to ask Kuma directly, or if Kuma does die, which it seems like that's going to happen probably at some point at least, or he's already kind of dead because he's a robot. Then he's going to ask Bonnie or like look in the memory bubble or something like that to find the answer. So all that I think is valid, like it's going to happen. But I think as far as the question and like what they're actually searching for, I think it's still going to be the smile fruits. Like that to me just makes the most sense because Vegapunk worked with Caesar. He kicked Caesar out because of like his methods weren't up to snuff. You know what I mean? Like from Punk Hazard. And so to me, I don't like the bubble stuff. I think he wants, but I don't think he wants that from Vegapunk. I think they're looking for smile cure.
It's interesting you say that because like the smiles thing was also they kind of did bring it up. Like to Vegapunk, like to his face, like Nami did talk about the smiles to him and they just kind of like breezed by it. They breezed by a lot of things. And I'm curious of how much of that stuff gets revisited because I almost feel like if the smiles things was the ultimate question that Zoro wanted to ask, Oda wouldn't have had like us bring up the topic like almost 2 times right to him. And then this one like very in his face about it. The only thing was not specifically Okubure Town. And the reason why I think the we thing still stands is because if it's surrounded by Kuma, all the Straw Hats were basically in debt to Kuma at the time skip, and they were like this is all things like a mystery. Why did Kuma do this? Who is this man? Why us? Like, what did he do? And like, I think they want anything Kuma related isn't an I thing in my opinion. It's a we thing because all the Straw Hats.
But the pain bubble can't be a we thing.
Yeah.
A couple of them knew. So Zoro wouldn't be talking about the pain bubble so openly like that.
Yeah. What I will say on that is technically I feel like all the Straw Hats know about it because Sanji knew about it, Robin figured out about, Brook knew about it, and then all the people that are left is just like Nami and then Chopper, and then Chopper was like asking. The only person that we know didn't figure out is Luffy because they were like, don't tell Luffy, right?
True, but Zoro wouldn't go and say we have they wouldn't have talked about it and like agreed that they want to ask Vegapunk about so that's why I don't think that it can be that. Like it could be we want to figure out why Kuma has been helping us, why he sent us away, and like what you're doing with Kuma, like that I think is super duper valid, especially given his ties to Revolutionary Army and thus Sabo and Dragon. It's like all that makes perfect sense. It's just the bubble is the one thing But what's interesting though is despite my hesitancy to think it's the bubble, I'm like equally as positive that the bubble is still going to matter. You know what I mean? It's like that memory bubble. I would love to see Zoro like dip his hand in there and he's like familiar with the experience already because even though that's like a different kind of pain, but same thing. He's kind of used to it in a way and he can like figure out, oh, that's what happened. And then he's not like Bonnie because he's already done it, like a worse version of, you know what I mean? So it would be a cool thing, but yeah.
And here's the thing, right? If they want to ask Kuma, like you said, the only person they can ask is Vegapunk in reality. And the reason why the bubble thing, the reason why Zoro could be the one spearheading the question is the bubble part because he experienced that. But the reason why it's a we thing is more so that Kuma at Thriller Bark defied the Gorosei and he was just like, I need the Straw Hats, but here's your out, right? He did the same thing on Sabaody. He did the same thing over the 2 years. And so like, as far as like why it's a we thing, I think all 3 parts lend itself to that. And the reason why Zoro would be the one spearheading that question, it's because he was the one who had like the most intimate connection to Kuma in reality, because he's the only one who got to talk to Kuma one-on-one
Yeah, and Sanji a little bit, but yeah,
Sanji a little bit until Zoro gave him the
Mhm.
whack-a-mole, you know. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, Zoro's the only one who got to talk to Kuma while he was alive, technically. Frankie got to like see things about like his innards, little creepy, but like yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean he knows about Kuma, right? So
Right.
it's interesting.
That
Project.
would be a cool thing though, having Frankie like what if like they get Kuma's body, it's just like a dead robot body, and he's and like somehow Frankie's like, oh well, I saw stuff about this in Vegapunk's lab. Let me like he like he's able to like break into it and like get some kind of info or like recordings or something. I don't know, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. Whew, I can't spoil too much about the Kuma video coming up. Trevor knows. Cracked thumbnail. So dope. I'm excited for that one. Project Iceman, $2 says, do you think Vegapunk moves Kuma's memories to another body? Hey, that's an interesting line of logic. I think a lot of people have thought like, you know, S Kuma is on Egghead, so like there's so much that S Kuma can do. One of my favorite ideas is like S Kuma can take out the authority chips, because like if they can reject anything, then maybe it's that. So I like that idea.
S clown, man. That's been my agenda for a minute. There's an experimental S clown in there that isn't finished, and it's like a little bit. It's its will is a little iffy, like whether it listens or not is a little iffy. And
Yeah.
then he goes and uses his power, like, or maybe they can even put the green blood of his power into other people, or he awakens or something. But basically, he can separate the people's bodies. You know what I mean? Or imagine if S Clown had Law's powers, so he could break other people into pieces instead of himself, and then he takes out the authority chips. I don't know, something like that. But either way, though, the authority chips getting removed is, I feel like, definitely, at least for some of the Seraphim, is pretty likely.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Axe D Charlotte, $5 super chat says Kuma makes the intangible exist. He made their desires a reality. In that moment, the Strats wanted to become stronger, and so boom, they got sent. W chat, which thank you for that. Thank you for that, Charlotte. And hey, that's a cool way to think about it. You know, I like that idea. I think what's the most interesting thing about Kuma's power is, given how crazy it is, why pause? Like, why bear? Like, what? Like is Kuma, like, that's his name, but like, and then like the ears are his hat, but like, is he a Zoan? Or are those paws like necessary for the dream? Like, what happened there? You know, like it almost feels like a mythical zone where it's like this bear that could send like the hiking bear. It's like from Drum Kingdom, right?
Yes.
Where it's like the hiking bear wanted to leave the island, so it dreamed to travel, and so it's a bear that dreamed to travel, and so you get the pawpaw fruit. But it's like, what? You know, like that's just crazy. But I don't know what to go. Whenever I sit down to think about Kuma's power rather than Kuma's character, I get like lost, because I'm just like, which way do I go? Like,
Uh-huh.
it's so
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
I do like the mythical zone idea. Like you would imagine that if it's a zone, it would be uncovered by now, because if it's a bear zone, you'd be turning into a bear sometimes and not a bear other times. Where like with Luffy's fruit, it's still kind of like weird that it was never found out, but like, well, he would have only been turning into a human this whole time until he awakened it and got this new form, right? Apparently, at least from how we understand it. So it's like, so if it was like a bear, like a mythical bear zone of some kind, that would be, it wouldn't fit very well. There'd be too many questions to answer. So that's one thing that like I want it to be a mythical bear, but I feel like it can't. Like it would be too many questions to answer.
It
That's all.
would
It's just
basically require, like, we talked about this in my Mythical Zone series. A lot of people thought that Kuma was, based off the criteria we laid out at the time, and I think it still lines up. Kuma's power could fit, but the reason why I never made a video about it, especially back then, and I probably won't on his power specifically, is that it would require the fact that Kuma like never used his power to fullest potential, which is like,
yeah.
yeah, but like, why? And then like, if that's relevant, then when are we going to see it? But then we're not gonna see it. It's just interesting. So I don't
And
necessarily care to make it a mythical zone.
right, but the thing that I think is really really interesting is that, like, remember when remember when we learned about the 21 grams of soul or
Yep.
whatever that Vegapunk was learning about? We heard that while Vegapunk was talking to Kuma, like in an experiment room. You know what I mean? That was like the flashback. Like I might be in the same room that like the bubble's in, if I remember correctly, or something like that. So it's interesting that like those were kind of juxtaposed, like the soul being removed from the body and these like this weird intangible tangible power thing, right? Like the guy who has these powers is helping with the not helping but learning about this from Vegapunk. Like that, the fact that Oda gave us all that in one package, I think is really important. And so whenever it comes to what his power is, I think it's like I don't know when we're gonna learn about it or like what the story, like how Oda's gonna, because it's obviously incredible. Like it like the making the intangible tangible is obscene, right? Like that is so important, right? And so I don't know exactly how it's gonna work, but I almost wonder if the power, like what if the awakening does let you push out the soul? I guess that's where I'm getting at. Like it, like literally he can hit you and your soul just gets removed from your body and you're like Brook, where like dang, okay. Like I'm just cruising around in a cloud now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like able to go inhabit other bodies or whatever. Because Brook just went to a random, like it's his own body, but like he just went to a skeleton and was able to inhabit it, and he can move it like through will. Like there's no way a skeleton should be moving, but it is.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if his power can do something similar, like push out your soul. You can put that soul into something else, like an inanimate object, and then you have a living thing. So we're talking about making the intangible tangible. It could also make the inanimate animate in that way. And so I'm wondering if maybe this is some story with Emu's stuff where like what if somebody in the past pushed out a shadow from somebody, and it went in Emu's body. Like there's so many ways you could look at it. So
like what you're
I don't know.
So I talked a lot about the 21 grams and what that means in the Blackbeard video, and the reason why or not the reason, but the contingency of why Kuma can't do what we're talking about, even though based off of what we described and what he has shown and what like Vegapunk has talked about, it's not even a logical leap that you could do all the things we're talking about, like what you said about Brook. The main thing about Brook's thing that I talked about in the video, which if you guys haven't watched yet, definitely go watch, because that was my last video for a long time, and I wonder why that was my last video for a decent bit. But the idea was that, you know, something interesting about Brook's power is he went into the soul form, right? And we think about, like, you know, a lot of people are thinking like, oh, like the devil fruit's in your heart. You eat someone's heart, then you get the devil fruit. Not that it's debunked, but look at what happened with Brook. Brook did not consciously activate his devil fruit. His devil fruit passively activated in death, and then he was a soul, like a fire soul, which is like a hitodama in Japanese. And the thing about that is, what we know is that's most likely the 21 grams that Vegapunk is talking about. Yeah. In the 21 grams, when Brook inhabited his body again, he gets a shadow. So now we know that this is soul, and we know that this is shadow. But we know what also is there? His devil fruit. His devil fruit has to be in that intangible form because it transferred. In order for his powers to work, he could be in anything, but what he needs is that devil fruit power, so it has to be retained. So if you watch the Blackbeard video, you understand the full context of why I brought it up and explaining it that way. But the important thing is, why can't someone do that? Why can't someone just push someone's soul out or absorb? It's because in order to know what to push out, you have to experience it. Look at what Kuma did. Kuma experienced a traumatic past of pain and suffering, and what did he do with Vegapunk? He was hesitant to do so, but ultimately look at what he did. He used that on himself. He did that to himself. He knows what pain and suffering is, so he knows how to remove pain and suffering from someone else, which is why you get that from the Luffy situation, right? He knows what that means. He experienced it. So the only way he would be able to do that with devil fruits is if somehow he experienced devil fruit removal, which wouldn't be a normal thing, right? Is it possible? Theoretically, sure. But is it someone has to be knowledgeable about the mechanisms of devil fruits in order to do that. Vegapunk still doesn't know the full mechanisms, right? He doesn't know how to recreate Logias. So that's why I would imagine Kuma can't do something like that. The same thing with souls, right? The only person in the story, realistically, that knows what it means to experience death is Brook. And so if you somehow gave Kuma Brook's memories, maybe he could pull the souls out of people, because Brook experienced that. Even Luffy didn't necessarily experience that. He died, but he didn't know what happened to him. Could you, if with Luffy's memories, could you do it? Maybe. And so if you go back to the Blackbeard video again, that's the main thing about it is memories and experience. And the reason why I left off on that video is because that needed to marinate for a lot of people, because like there was so much that like one time through you wouldn't really get fully into it, where it's just like a lot what happens often with a 50-minute video. But that video is core to the future videos for sure.
Whenever you cook up a long video, man, it's so hard to like you have all the ideas, you're like, how do I connect the dots so that this like makes sense, and like I stack up the info in the proper way so that whenever I get to the conclusion, you know, and it's like there's just so much info, it's like, damn, like, I don't know how to organize it.
I almost have the opposite, where I connect too much. I told everyone in the stream after that one, I cut out 30 minutes of that video. Because I didn't want people to think that it was a VOD, so I needed it under 60 minutes, and I sped up like the ending part so that it's at 57 minutes. It was right over 60. So if people saw it was over an hour, they would have been like, "Oh, it's a par VOD. I hate when he talks. L par, you know, all that jazz." But I kept it under so that people would click on it. And
no, that's smart.
Yeah.
But about what you were saying though, I like that, because it's kind of like you need to know what you're looking for to find it, if that makes sense, right? Like if you don't know it's there, like how are you gonna do anything with it? You know, like it's not like if you're, I mean, you know, I've never had paw power, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass, but I would imagine it's not like you can go up to somebody and try to paw out. It's like, oh, there's a soul in here, I can just push out. All right, like no problem. Like you would have to know that it's there, right? Like when Luffy's all beat up, and like you said, like he's been hurt before. It's like, okay, I know exactly. Like, I mean, if we're gonna go literal, like you mentioned earlier, like pain is actually coming from your brain. It's like the electrical signals to the area, right? It's like if I get my arm cut off, like the pain is coming from my brain and telling me that it's over here to like react, but it's not actually. You know what I mean? Like it's coming from here, but it's only because my brain's recognizing it. Right. So it's like that same thing where Kuma might know, okay, well, I know it's all up here in the brain, and I know what part of this I'm removing, blah, blah, blah. But like he would have to know the soul is there. So tying back to the Brooks memories thing, I like that. I mean, I could also see it just being Kuma's awakening is what you need to push the soul out. Like something like it, just make it a little more One Piece centric logic, I guess, in that sense. But I like it regardless, where it's like he can't do that now, but he needs something else in order to do that. And then that leads to the idea of like, will we get to see Kuma alive? Or maybe Kuma did successfully do this. Like maybe he did push his soul out at one point.
Hey, there's a little bit of nuance in what here Luke said, like you're alive as long as the memories are there. But like, you know, it's funny, it's like, whose memories? What if your own memories are there? Kuma's memories are right there. So it's interesting.
Afro theory, man. That's all I'm saying. That Afro is gonna have all the answers, all the memories. I'm telling you. They packed it fat.
Remind me to. I didn't tell Trevor. I'll tell you though after the call. I'll tell you what I think is gonna happen to Kuma. But let's get on to more super chats here. Mr. Bushido, €5 says, do you think Garp hates Shanks for a good reason, not just because Luffy became by? Oh yeah, 1000% now it's because he knows about saying Garland. Like that was something I brought up in my Shanks and Garp video, that like even in the Godfather Shanks video, Godfather Shanks video, just I mean the taglines kind of write themselves, Oda, right? Am I right, buddy? Yeah, like I would imagine Garp knows he was at God Valley, he saw it for Garland. If he thinks that Shanks is related to Garland, and he's just like, do you even know what kind of man Shanks is? It's probably because he like thinks that Shanks is 100% a Celestial Dragon, which in this conversation we divulged about like what Dax was saying, it's not 100% yet, and it's honestly prime for Oda to twist us up with that, you know. So
Well, let me ask this: what's all the evidence that Garp doesn't like Shanks beyond? I don't even remember when it was. Maybe it was Marineford, or no, maybe it was like in a flashback. But where like he was mad at Shanks for making Luffy a pirate. But like, what's the other evidence like where he's
the main
not like
thing is when like it's literally on site. He's never insulted any single person, even Dragon. Dragon is literally counter the revs, no negative stuff. Moment Shanks get brought up, he like I forgot what he said, but like Luffy got mad and said stop insulting him. But then when Shanks just showed up at Marineford, he's just like that damned red haired again or something like that. Like he's insulting him like on site, and Garp doesn't care about people at all. Like
I mean,
that to say anything like that.
in my experience, I think Garp always talks stuff to everybody. Like whenever he pulled up to Hachinosu, he's literally like, "You pirate turds! Like I'm taking you out." If you go to the Reverie when Stelly pulls up, he literally calls him a turd, or like it was turd in the version I read. I'm sure I don't know what the real term is. And so for me, I pictured as Garp kind of looks down on a lot of people. You know what I mean? And for me, I feel like it's like Garp knows firsthand how who you're the child of does not mean anything about who you are as a person, right? Like he knows that in every possible way. Like as far as Ace and Roger, he knows that about his own kids, and so I can't see him hating Shanks because
I don't think it's because of that.
Like, there would have to be something else that Shanks has done to show that he is in the same mindset
1000%.
as Garling.
I mean, hey, that's what the Godfather Shanks theory is for, right? Like, there's a whole lot of stuff in there that Shanks could have been doing that got small W's that, like, easily would have pissed Garp off. Anything to do with kids would have pissed Garp off. I think at the end of the day, if there's a part of Film Red that's canon, it's Shanks did something Elgia related that when in the episodes that prefaced and the storyline that Oda wrote, that's what got Shanks the 1 billion bounty or whatever. And that's when Garp says something along the lines of like, so he showed his true colors, right? So that's and that's in this special episode prior to Film Red, by the way, which is why I don't like Film Red as much as the next person, because I feel like that should just be in the movie. But it could have easily just been in the movie, and I'm pretty sure Oda put it in the journal that he like the bullet points for the director to follow, but it was in the thing. And that's something that I think is more canon than most other events, is that Shanks did something negative, whether you want to say it's LG or not. Like people are still on the fence if Uta's canon or Uta's not. Uta, the events of Uta's childhood, canon, not canon. Something got Shanks 1 billion bounty. He pre-Yonko, and that is what made Garp realize that Shanks is probably not a good person. And like whether he knows the truth of it, whether he's tying it to the lineage, I think that line where he says like, so he finally showed his true colors, it might have been something along the lines of like, this guy was related to this guy I really don't like, and he's lining up with that, right? That's why I was leaning in towards that. I don't think it's because he's related to him, right? Otherwise, like Roger, Ace, right? That wouldn't make sense.
Or his own kids, kind of to a degree, where like he knows that he's known his old kids his own life, and they become pirates, and it's like it's not like the second they make that decision, they're terrible people. It's like that's just not logically, So like he knows very well, like there's way more to that whole thing. Now, it would be interesting if he was misled, like with the Elgia thing. Like that would make sense and would,
I mean, everyone was misled, right? Because no one knows according to the story, no one knows what Shanks actually did besides Uta, who hid it. And so, like, Garp, what Garp received was, and this is what made him say, oh, he showed his true colors, was Shanks destroyed an island. Hey, is there an island that got destroyed? And is there someone who got distinguished from that? Like, it's weird because that's the information that Garp got in that context to say like, oh, he finally showed his true colors. I'm like, what colors are these? Like,
and Mimoji in the chat is cooking also, like pretty much my same thoughts here, where it's like even if that's true, it's like Garp to me is like he always knows the right thing, like even if he does the wrong thing sometimes, like by being with the government and helping celestial dragons back in the day, etc. It's like he knows what justice really should be, like what the real morality of the situation is.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like I can blame him that much if all the news corroborates the same story, but you would imagine that Garp would know that like these things are fake, you know, or like Shanks wouldn't actually do something evil like that. Like to
That's where
me, like
it's
I feel like Garp is like the one person to me where like I don't think he'd fall for something. Like he knows that a lot of the stories are bullshit, you know what I mean? So I guess that's
like you could say that, but
it's kind
then
of hard.
there we get evidence where it's like Sengoku will tell him the stories of Luffy, and he's just like, "Yep, that's my son." You know what I mean? He takes it at face value. In terms of like what the reality is and what's being told to him, I don't feel like Oda gave Garp enough time for us to like really dissect that. But we do get a cool instance where like the Reverie, but we don't know what he told Shirahoshi, right? Because that's a whole nuance in and of itself. That after Reverie, there's so much that's going on with the Vivi, Arabasta, Cobra. Does Garp know the real stuff, and did he tell Shirahoshi and Neptune the real stuff, or did he just say what was in the news? Because that's something that Oda actually did hide from us, that would let us to this part where it's like, is Garp trusting the news, or is he finding out the news himself? Does he care to do it in an instance like Shanks? Does he care to do it in most pirate cases, right? At some point we have to say, like, you know, Garp is part of the Marines, so he gets sent on missions where he's just told a certain report and he follows suit, like Don Sai, right? Or not Don Sai, Don Chinzhao, right? Like he's sent after them and he has to go after people. Like most of the pirate world is terrified and fearful of Garp. Are all of those people as heinous as the world government makes it? No. But does he have to put them down? Yeah. So it's like, who does Garp put down on the chopping block? You know, at the end of the day, they're the people who can resist Garp. You know what I mean? Like, if you can resist Garp, you're worthy for Garp to like look into. Has Garp ever like gone one-on-one with Shanks? Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. To this point, it doesn't even seem like Garp like truly has like interacted with the Shanks when you really think about it, other than maybe when he was an apprentice. But past that, it's like it feels like Garp and Shanks like Garp handed off Luffy to Don Island. Shanks like, "Ayo, bet," and then like Luffy heads off, and then Garp gets him, and then Shanks and Garp are just both like dodging Luffy a little bit, you know, like which one of us are gonna interact with them, right? So it's interesting with that.
Yeah. Big shout out to Randy Troy. I just saw him pull up in the chat.
Yeah. What we cooking, yo?
Oh, we're always cooking. Yeah. Actually, hold on, Randy, did you drop that video we were talking about? Hold on, let me check. No, you haven't dropped it yet. Hey, I ain't gonna say nothing except everyone needs to watch Randy's next couple videos.
Oh no, 1000%. At my last stream, I told everyone to stop watching me during the break month and watch Randy.
This is like the complete antithesis of what we should say as YouTubers. But like, if you were debating between watching my video or Randy's next video, just watch Randy's next video. I'll just tell you what to do.
I don't even know what video you're talking about, but he told me some things after our call, and then he also said something on my call, and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I could wait.
I asked Randy for a preview of his next video, which I'm not going to say anything about it other than he sent me a GIF, and he's like, I think you'll get it. And I saw it. I was like, oh, like jaw, like maybe not jaw literally on the floor, but pretty close. Like I was like, wait, hold on. My brain, the synapses are firing, you know, like crazy right now. Like I don't know how to take this, but it's going to be an amazing video. That's all I can say.
I'm excited. Yeah. Randy and I talked a little bit afterwards, and I'm not going to spoil anything either, but I like what he's cooking is all I'm gonna say. It tasted pretty good. I wafted it, you know? You have to safely waft. You learn that in chemistry class. Yeah. That's what I did.
Randy's been taking cooking classes or something over the void month.
Yeah,
you know,
1000%. But yeah, other than that, Randy, we're going through super chats, and then we're trying to speed through to another major talking point that Dax. I was gonna say that's hidden behind the Holy Knights, but then I just said Hidden Island, which hey, he might be here too.
He was here earlier. Shout out Hidden.
Shout out Hidden. Let's see. Mr. Bashio 2 euros says, for you think, or I guess, do you think Jupiter is related to Sanji? I still do. There's
no.
another.
I'll just say it personally. No, I think it's
funny because in the katakana, Shepherd could be Chef Herd, and it's like chef, but like there. Hey, what I will say is, I might have found another Sanji relative.
I'll put it this way: the closest I'm willing to even consider is that Jupiter is somehow related to Zeph. That I'll say that, because then it'd be like a really meta, he's related to Sanji kind of thing.
Yeah.
But even that's just like completely random. Like that's not, like at this point, I feel like all we have to go off of for the most, I know you said the chef thing, but the most like hardcore evidence, like the only thing we can really say is they both have blonde hair. You know what I mean? So for me, they all wear, well, like they all don't wear suits, because like the Gandhi guy is like a Robon, but they all pretty much wear suits. Like and Sanji wears that, so it's like that's not really something you could point to. So I would say no, but I don't know.
What I will say is I may have figured out where the Gorosei are from, though. That one, I sat there. I didn't even mean to do this. I didn't even care to do this. It just fell on my lap. I was like, wait a second. Agriculture. That's interesting. I wonder if there's a connection here.
Food. Yeah, I like that. But that also ties to the food stores getting destroyed recently.
Yeah.
And how I feel like there's something there where not that he's in cahoots with someone planning it, but maybe he turned a blind eye or purposefully reduced the staff on guard at the food storage or something to let that happen. And for me, that would be a very antithetical thing to Sanji. Like, Sanji would not destroy the food stores even if they were for celestial dragons, I would argue. So that's one thing that's kind of opposite. But like Randy said, I would like it if Sanji fought Jupiter, and maybe it's for this reason. Like, oh, you've been keeping food away from people. You destroyed your own food to like make your own, like get your own plan to work. Like, dude, stop. Like, don't mess with food like that. Like that would be a cool.
Here's a question I have is Saint Saturn. Tier lists brain power science against Vegapunk. He is a Gorosei of the science division. Is he comparable to Vegapunk? Because I'm on the boat that like I'm on the boat, but I'm also not on the boat of that, hey, maybe he's good at science, but like he's not better than Vegapunk. And that's kind of the reason why I say that is that relates to the real world. It's like
it is
in modern time, we kind of change it a little bit, but especially when it comes to science, like our military science people aren't necessarily the best science people in the field, right?
So the people who make the bombs, like the science for bombs, they aren't the head of the defense and science departments. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at the Manhattan Project, Einstein was there's way more detail. Like I know some people are probably going to not like my analysis on it, but like this is generally how it went. But like Einstein's working on that stuff. He realizes other people around the world are working on the same stuff, and they might make it first. And there's a lot of bad stuff going on. And he's like, pens a letter to the president, like, hey, we can do this. Like other people might have this too. And then then they make a special advisory committee, and several years later they have atomic bombs, and it's because of what Einstein came up. Well, Einstein and a lot of other scientists, right? There's, like I said, there's way more details to this than that. I'm definitely dumbing it down, but the idea is that the actual smart people who make the scary stuff aren't actually in charge of creating the scary stuff, right? Like they make it, and then someone's like, "Wait, you can do that? All right, make me a bunch," and then that's it, right? Like, it's not like, so the smartest people aren't in charge of the actual defense usually. So
yeah, and a lot of times they aren't necessarily making the weapons. It's the people that turn them into weapons, which is the premise of the Nobel Peace Prize, right? Like,
and the premise of the mother frame, if you ask my opinion. But
yeah, which gonna speed through these. Let's get through some more. Mr. Bushido, €2 says QUES, like, are you asking in Spanish? Why didn't Dragon go to Reverie as well? Maybe like if Dragon showed up, they would go like harder. Maybe that's the case. Like if the world, like, you can't really hide Dragon. They all went in lucratively, like, right? Like they didn't show up. They all disguised themselves. And it's like if Dragon got like found out, it's like instant red flag, right? Instant, like
Yeah.
versus like Sabo showed up at the Gorosei and Emu, and they're like, who is this? And I'm like, you don't. This guy's been cooing your entire king, like 8 of your 12. Like, how do you not know this man? And it's like, but if Dragon showed up, it's like maybe they would go all out, right? Like maybe them seeing Karasu and Morley wasn't like the admirals were like, oh, like we could handle this sort of. But like if Dragon showed up, maybe like Akainu and everybody would be like, all right, all hands on deck. Like I'd imagine that there's some line of like Dragon has to take care of some things in the back by being the helmsman of his ship, that he can't really go out in the field, kind of like Akainu as fleet admiral, but also like his power might be needed as a last resort, right? Like that kind of a thing.
It might just be like so destructive that like you like it. If he gets into action, it's like it's almost like the God's Knights, where it's like it seems like it's almost like the last, like not, I wouldn't call it the trump card maybe, but it's like the last line of defense before you bring out the actual Gorosei and Emu and all that. It's like I kind of view it the same way.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, I wonder when he's gonna show up, man. Like,
yeah, like
we've had Shanks, Garp, everyone else, like. And Dragon's still talking and sweating. That's like all he ever does.
Yeah, I think with the Dragon too, the other part of it is on top of being like a last resort in terms of power, it's kind of like a situation where technically they weren't supposed to be as brazen as they were. Like the Maridra raid wasn't real. There was 3 objectives, and those objectives weren't power oriented. They weren't trying to subjugate, they weren't trying to beat people,
right?
Like it was literally, let's disguise ourselves. And then Sabo got heated, and then like shit hit the fan, and then they started fighting, right? But at the end of the day, they wanted to get Kuma. Sure, there was resistance there. They wanted to burn down the thing, and I'm sure they wanted to get resistance there. But if they wanted to go guns blazing, right, then they would have went about a lot of things a lot different. For example, they wouldn't have sent Sabo like in internal, right? Like Sabo was sent to go get keys, right? I would imagine you'd want the Flame Emperor to be fighting in the front lines, right? Like the guy who already fought Fujitora to be there to fight, right? It almost makes sense that, hey, Morley and Karasu's powers are AoE, widespread, disruptive, but they're not necessarily like murderous, right? Like Sabo lights everything on fire. Yeah, people are dying, and do they care about people dying? Yeah, maybe they didn't. Sabo didn't seem to care too much about Cobra dying, but like at the end of the day, like he doesn't want to kill slaves, he doesn't want to kill like innocent people. So like Sabo fighting there, you know, it's interesting, right? You know, I kind of look at it as like, would you want to put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to Dragon? Let me see. Tainted Marth,
which I do, because well, we'll get into it later, but eggs and dragons, you were talking about eggs in a basket with Dragon. Eggs and dragons are too intricately linked for me to say.
Yeah.
I'm not on board, but yeah.
Tainted Marth with the $5 said, "Hi, this is a message. I got nothing smart to say right now. Keep cooking. You two plus Hidden are the Yonko of the community. Peace. Fire, fire, fire." That's so funny, Tainted Marth.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for the €5.
I appreciate you. Everyone, go check out Tainted Marth's channel if you haven't already. I think you posted a short today, Marth, or recently. I remember it popped up. I watched it, but yeah, definitely go check him out.
Young Usopp $5 says, Buggy was found on an unnamed island. Oda is hiding his past. The reason Buggy dyes his hair. Eames' throne room is also the same as Buggy's color scheme. Yeah, well, I mean, like
background with a red throne, I guess.
Yeah, like Buggy, he's getting memed to the top, guys. Like, there's no like, I'd put money on that, like for sure. Like Buggy's making it to the top. Is he gonna be there? Is it gonna mean anything when he's there? I don't know. You tell me. Is Buggy gonna get stronger? Is he gonna get weaker? I think stronger makes sense. But Caleb Brown $5 says, what do y'all think about the Void Century flashback taking place in Emu's memory like Kuma's? I also think Emu will be the MC of the flashback, not Joy Boy. I like that. I like that perspective a lot. That's a solid thing. The only counter is then they're not getting that history from Laugh Tale then, because Laugh Tale was Joy Boy's tale that Roger told us about, right? So it would be interesting to see the other side of the coin of emus, and maybe like oh, you know what would be a sick thing to do? Like they get Emu's memories somehow, and then Emu goes to Laugh Tale and see Joy Boy's side of it. Because this entire time, like, oh wait, that actually kind of makes sense, because Lily, like, they were like, oh, say the full name, and then like the D clan thing, it was almost kind of one of these things like this is the meaning. These people went out and did their own thing, but like these blasted rocks, it wasn't a mistake. Emu doesn't necessarily know, so like it almost seems like Emu doesn't necessarily know Joy Boy's side of it. So it could be that Emu goes to Laugh Tale with them and laughs at the Laugh Tale. Oh my god, that would be kind of sick. Wait, that'd be kind of sick if you think about it.
I couldn't see any scenario where Emu is anything but a super antagonist. Like it's been built up.
Yeah. I mean, I think
long,
it's like,
you know,
it's like one of those things, right? Where it's like Emu is stubbornly antagonist, right? But the thing that would break them would be their like counterpart, their person at the Void Century, Joy Boy. Like Luffy's not gonna do, like Luffy's gonna be Luffy, right? But like it's kind of like Doflamingo, right? Doflamingo's still evil. He's still gonna be his evil ways. What would break him? It'd be like if Rosinante came back and be like, brother, I'm so sorry, or like did something like that, right? He hears Rosinante or his dad come back and be like, I'm so sorry for what I did. I feel like Doflamingo would cry. I don't know, because even when he remembered he cried.
He killed them. You know what I
but
mean?
Even when he remembered them, he cried. He cried in his. He woke up and he was like, "All right, let's go, guys."
I feel like for Emu, like very few villains have ever kind of had that kind of redemption, and it always happens after we beat them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And so for me, like it would take literal like Gear 5th storytelling for it to not seem weird. So that'll be my one caveat.
So then here's the question then. Let's not talk about the journey there, but do you like the idea that Emu sees Joy Boy's memories?
That's what I was about to say. I was like, but on the other stuff, I like what you were saying. Mainly that we would first get the Void Century flashback from Emu's perspective, so we almost see that the Ancient Kingdom was bad, or maybe, but it's like legit. Like it's like not that it makes Emu a good person, but we start thinking like, well, wait, is that really the Void Century? Like that's why the Ancient Kingdom teamed up, like they saved the world or something, you know? And so from our perspective, and it could be genuine that Emu did that for like legitimately good reasons, like did the Void Century and all that. But then maybe we go to Joy Boy's side and there's like a couple caveats. It's like, oh my God, that the world wasn't actually going to end, or this thing wasn't actually going to happen like Emu thought, even though it looked that way to everyone else. Like the Ancient Kingdom was doing this, like they had a totally different plan. And so I could definitely see that where like we see Emus first, so we go into it so confused about what's going on. Like, wait, the ancient, like Joy Boy wasn't a good person? Like how? Like, but then we see that it's not, you know, and it's a very typical, you know, we've seen a million times where we like kind of start feeling for the villain a little bit, like, oh wow, like they actually went through some stuff. So it could be like Emu was maybe legitimately suffering with the other kings, like there was an actual threat to the world, and they were like, maybe the whole reason they had slaves, because we know the Don Quixote had slaves before the Void Century.
Yeah,
which were the Tada. It's like maybe the reason they were enslaving everyone was because like they needed a certain amount of power, because the world was actually going to end if they didn't do something. So there could be like so I just like that whole gist. And then for Emu to eventually find out Joy Boy's side, I like that, except like I like it, but I would not like it if it changed anything. I'll put it that way, because I feel like Emu,
it would be an after
been around. Like Emu's been around for 800 years, was around in Joy Boy's time, like knows all this stuff already. And so for them to not find out for 800 plus years, and then like for them to find out and then something changes where like
they don't know
evil. Like I don't know how it would work, but it would seem weird, because it's like they should know most of it, even if there's something they don't know. I wouldn't like it storytelling wise if it changed anything for them. Like they shouldn't be good or just try to take down the world government at that point.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like if the Void Century is led there by the poneglyphs and the information's poneglyphs, like we do get recent information that Emu's not really super knowledgeable about the context of why they were like, they're still debating whether it was a true mistake or not that Lily distributed them. You'd almost wonder 800 years later, it's like, nah, you should be confident that Lily kind of sabotaged this entire thing, right? So it's like there is like a solid portion that is missing in my mind from Emu's side. And are they being willfully ignorant, or is it that they were so outside of the scope of information that they were never able to make it into it? Is there a reason why they need Robin, for example, right? Like it almost seemed like they didn't even know that it was a Kozuki text, right? For to say like these vexing rocks, right? Like rather than like oh these Wano made things, like it, there is this world where like especially this Emu, whether like they know about the Void Century, they're from the Void Century, we don't. Again, Oda left it kind of open-ended at this point still. Do they necessarily know all of it? It is interesting, but the one thing that I will say before moving to the next part is that that or one thing I will, do you know how I type my laughs in like all the chats whenever I show up? You know how I laugh in stream?
Mm-hmm.
How do I type it?
Like, oh, like how do you? Oh,
yeah, like how do I type it? Did you know? Like,
oh,
I always type it
like
the same
how
way.
you actually. No, I don't know.
Okay, here, I'll type it in the chat and then I'll ask you a question concurrently. Do you think Emu will ever laugh?
Yes, guaranteed.
Okay, what do you think their laugh is gonna be?
Oh, the one you put in the chat, that's pretty good because that's like the typical evil laugh, and then Roger had ha ha ha, so it's kind of like it's like the usual laughs, like the usual regular laugh and the usual evil person laugh. I kind of like that vibe.
And then it's moo ha ha ha, moo emu ha.
Yeah, I could see it. I like that. I like that a lot. Other people are saying like moo 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 moo. I could almost see that too because it's like Big Mom with mama mama, but
okay,
moo 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 moo, you know, moo 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 moo. I don't know. I like muahaha. That's good. That's good. I like that a lot. I like.
Oh no, it froze. Oh wait, Discord froze. Oh no. He said I like and then it just left. Hold on, let me try to fix it with the Discord. Oh, my entire Discord just crashed. Guys. What just happened? Let me close out the task manager, but not to give dead space and keep this thing going, because I wanna give Dax the time to discuss the thing. Okay, Discord's reopening right now. Okay. Am I still in the call? I am in the call. Yeah, my Discord crashed. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. You can hear me?
I can hear you. I think we're good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry about that.
You're good.
You said I like.
Yeah, I like moi. I mean, it's kind of just like my English way of thinking of it. You know, like it's probably not super accurate, but like it's moi ha ha. Like it's not moo ha ha ha. Like that's not how you would say it. So like that's like maybe I don't know, some kind of phonetic issue, I guess maybe. I like the idea of it though, and like in moo 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 or moo ha 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 or whatever. I like, yeah, I mean something like that.
I think it.
But I would. But the one caveat though is like, is Big Mom the only example we have of someone laughing like their name? You know, so I guess that if that's true.
No, I think there's a no. She laughs like her predisposition. We have gold dig Wapples.
Oh, that barely even. That's like.
wait, she got reintroduced last chapter. What do you mean?
Well, I'm just saying, Oda, like he's not. I don't know. That's a joke, obviously. You know what I'm saying?
But watch, she's gonna show up, and then like she's jealous of Vivi right now. Like Wapol and Vivi are jet setting around the world. She's gonna be like, gold dig. Like she's gonna be saying.
That is so funny though. That like Oda, come on, man. Which, by the way, I wanna mention this real quick. Stelly, just a random thing, just talking about, I don't know, just came to mind. Stelly was like freaking out about Vivi's picture, even though he's married also, like he has a queen or whatever because he's a king now.
True.
And I've been saying for a while that Stelly is an Emu parallel because he was so obsessed with being on the empty throne and all that, and so now we see he's also obsessed with Vivi. So I feel like the Stelly parallel is definitely going to continue in my mind.
Yeah, I could see that. There's a lot of people pulling the. I like the Stelly route. I think Randy and Threeville. I think Randy talked a lot about that parallel. I liked it. And then Doran saying maybe it's like Pika's laugh. Could be. Could be.
I could see Emu's voice being like Pika's
I was
voice.
so scared. I'm so scared.
Or maybe that's what you guys meant. I see Ronnie. I just say his Piku voice.
I need
but
their voice to be like it'd be so like I wouldn't like this necessarily, but it is comical when it's like the antagonist is the narrator, you know, and it's kind of funny, but it wouldn't happen.
That'd be interesting. No, and there are also a lot of things I guess that like say like Ebu sounds like a kid, which is like a sugar thing to me.
Yeah. You know what? Let me read this one. It's quick. Megamix resubscribed 6 months. I see it's still in the chat. Thank you for that. It said, appreciate the tidbits of info, Par. I appreciate you in the 6 months. And I think like we're wait, when you said like 5:30, did you mean my time or your time?
We're in the same time zone.
Oh, I thought you were an hour back.
No.
Okay.
No, but I mean, I'm still good for now, though.
Yes,
so we can be on for a little bit. But real quick, I just want to say one thing, just because I meant to say it earlier, and then I saw it come up in the chat. I was like, hey, now I got to remember. And I so like multiple times I've forgotten, but I just want to say this. I think it was a super chat from AXD Charlotte. I can't remember exactly because I can't see the super chats anymore. But there was a super, or at least the far ones. But it was the one about like darkness and Emu's powers, like Blackbeard's powers and Emu's powers.
Yeah. We passed that one.
I've just been wanting to say this where Emu called themselves Moo, or like a void, right? Or also dreams, but void is the one I like pointing to more. And that's kind of what Blackbeard's is a little bit also, because it's not technically a void, but it sucks everything into like a small space, like a black hole. It's basically a black hole. Like all of his darkness acts like a black hole. That's essentially it. And so whenever I think of like a void, like that is because like it also sucks in light even. So that's why it looks all dark, is because it's pulling in the light. So there's no light that's escaping, aka reflecting, and that's how you see things, right? So there is literally like it's emptiness, at least that's how it seems, because all the light's getting pulled in. And so whenever we see this void from Emu, I do think there's a connection there where they called themselves void. And that's like if you were able to have like black hole matter, which like isn't an actual thing, or you know what I mean, but if you're able to basically have a series of black holes like in a 2D plane, that it should be like sucking things in like Blackbeard's power does, but maybe if you can control it well enough or something, it just stays as like a void, like the empty space, like, you know, completely devoid of anything. Mm-hmm. And so I can kind of see them like the same but opposites, where Blackbeard sucks everything in, so it is emptiness, or it looks empty, but it's actually filled with everything, because that's how black holes work. Where Emu is maybe the opposite, where it's like maybe like where Blackbeard sucks everything in like a black hole, so like it's everything packed into a tight space. What if Emu's is the opposite, where it's like pushing everything out? And so it could be like so just kind of tying them together, where like the void, that emptiness, that whole thing, I can definitely see it. They're probably just like two sides of the same coin in that regard. And that goes back to the shadow thing, where like Emu could be like the light, and like instead of the shadow, it's all the light around the shadow, or like like they can choose where light is and isn't. So it's like they can form the shadows or whatever. So it's kind of similar, but
yeah. I also like that because the tale is literally about a laugh. Like Emu's laugh is embarrassing. Muha. That's pretty fun. I like that. Either way, I've been laughing like Emu this entire time. You take that with how you will. Yeah. You guys can go back in all the VODs and all the creators' streams. Look at the way I enter in when someone mentions something. I pop in. Muhahaha. But what I will say is at the beginning of the Shadows Theory, I talked about this, and I remember this, but like it was talking about how a lot of people think that when you add all the colors together, you get black, right? But that's from when you're emanating light, you got like a TV will, you RGB, and then you get white. When you add all the colors together from a standpoint of projecting that light, it turns white. But when it becomes additive in that regard. So then in a subtractive sense, that's when you're getting like the art. When you're painting and you add red, blue, green, then you'd get brown, and then like you mess around and then you get black, right? Like you
Right.
do it enough times, you get black. But
Yep.
that's kind of like in terms of a further parallel for like connecting the paint, connecting the thing at the very beginning of the Shadow series. I talk about that, and I realized like that could play a whole role here, where it's like what you said, like mixing, like Blackbeard's taking everything in confined space, and then Emu's kind of like putting that out. Well, if you put all of that together, then you get the darkness that you're talking about, right? So it's like there's multiple ways to get to the same point, whereas like Blackbeard is getting that through a similar mechanism, but it's by putting it all in one spot, whereas Emu's like able to take that and paint the world with it in a lot of ways. So and we got our resident artist here saying big facts color theory.
Yeah.
Big facts. And so let me what I was gonna say is actually, instead of let me read this super chat, because I saw it earlier, and maybe it ties us in some ways into our discussion here, but I do want to let you hit the note of the man marked by flames, which is hilarious. Hold on. Will of Gil commented something like a few minutes ago, and he super chatted it an hour ago. $2 super chat says, real quick, one last thing. And then he put laughing emojis. And
no, Gil is always trolling in the most tasteful way. Like every stream, I love it. Like every stream, like it's so fair to say that, but like I don't know.
Yeah.
What'd you expect from a ParDac stream?
Exactly. This is in the works. You know what I mean? But let me read this one. $20 from Alexander says, the Mary Joie treasure is an immortal Nefertari body. Lily, the 19 swords are the families that Joy Boy beat in a Davy backfight, and now can never rule. That's why Dofi mentioned needing the Opi Opi no Mi to claim it and rule the world, but he wrote Te world though. So thank you, Alexander, for the super chat, and I'm curious what you think about that, and like that connects us to the Holy Night stuff, but we'll jump to the man marked by flames afterwards. But the is an immortal Nefertari body Lily. Do you think that the treasure, like, I guess the question is, I think a lot of people thought that the treasure was Emu, and maybe Dofi wanted to switch into Emu. Do you think that the like, and I think some people had the idea that Emu's body is Lily's. I'm not on board necessarily with either, but I can understand why people think that. What do you think about that treasure thing?
Well, I'll say this. First off, I definitely don't think Lily's body is like around. Like, I think she was definitely killed. Like, because they said she never made it home, so like there is like some ambiguity there. But I think what we're gonna find out is that Emu like killed Lily because like you were talking earlier, Emu didn't know for sure if Emu had, or if Lily had a D in her name.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think what we're gonna find out is that like maybe they took a guess like 800 years ago, like, okay, you're actually against us or whatever, even though it was like kind of a risk, because if you kill one of the 20 kings, the rest of the other 20 are probably gonna be like, bro, what are you doing? Like, they're gonna kill us now, you know what I mean? So like that's like the worst case scenario probably in a lot of ways. So long story short, I do think Lily is dead, and I think Emu's body, the one from 800 years ago, I do think is still in Mu, I guess because that's what they call themselves or whatever, right? But I think what's happened is that we have Emu's body, but Emu's body from 800 years ago, the actual king, the normal Stelly type person, was overtaken by someone else, right? And so that would be like a Blackbeard type character to me. So like maybe a Blackbeard from 800 years ago, because Blackbeard always slips in at the last second and gets like, he doesn't want to do all the hard work, right? He gets in at the last second to get all the marbles, and he's all good with like shouldn't say no work because he's doing like prep work, but no work in the moment. Like he takes it, right? And so what I think what could happen is Emu was one of the 20 kings, probably the weakest of the 20 kings, probably like Stelly, where like they didn't have a lot of respect. Then they they beat the ancient kingdom together and everything, but Emu wanted more, like Stelly does, like even though, hey, we just took over the whole world, but I'm greedy as hell, I want to get more power. And so they went to like some outside source, kind of like Orochi and Kaido somewhat, and or it could have been they went to him hoping to like make a partnership or like an actual thing, and the guy's like, I'm just going to take you over. Like, like I can just be one of the kings now, if I just take over your body. And so that might be how Emu, as we see them, was born, where they were one of the 20 kings. Somebody powerful takes over their body. And then that's how they ascend to even above the 20, because the 20 are like, okay, we can't fuck with that. Like, we're not trying to die. They might even be like, you know what? If you're going to keep us in power, we might like you, because then you're going to be the ultimate force to make sure we get to stay as celestial dragons. So that's kind of a long-winded way, I guess, of saying, yeah, I think Emu's body's in there. Emu was taken over by somebody else, and so whenever Doflamingo says, I want to be able, I want the personality swap. I might be able to take over the world if I have these powers, right? Well, I think that's because Emu, the weak person from 800 years ago, the king, like they were a king, but like they were like Stelly, right? Well, if Doflamingo can swap personalities with the body that's being controlled or whatever, then maybe Doflamingo might not know the full story and think that's enough. I'm going to swap with the king all the way on top and I'm good. But maybe it could also be a thing where whoever is taking over Emu or whatever happened 800 years ago, maybe Doflamingo would have a strong enough will, and stuff to fight back against that being that's like controlling them or whatever. So then they can be the rightful king, I guess.
Gotcha.
So that's where I'm at. I definitely think it's Emu. Emu is taken over, and Doflamingo just wanted to swap with the Stelly type person, I guess.
Sorry, Nasty Ninja's comment just threw me off. Like Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. I'm like, where did that come from? But I imagine, and people who watched your video on the Holy Knights, there's like a parallel in concept there, which, actually maybe it makes sense to top into the Holy Knights a little bit, and then we'll go to the Man Marked by Flames, and then end the stream with the mother frame
that would work
conversation. So the Holy Knights thing, right? You had the video. I love the wordplay. Shadow Binks, translating to Shanks. And if for those of you guys who didn't see the video, guys, if you could link it, but then also for the people in the VOD, go check it out. Dope thumbnail, by the way. That was a fun one. If you want to just give a quick rundown of what that was. I imagine my viewers are familiar with the base concept as well. So.
Yep. So the general idea is, if you go back to when the zombie generals were like resurrected or whatever in Thriller Bark, Absalom has like a shadow that looks identical to Emu in my mind, and they summon all the generals. One of them is Captain John, who has ties to Buggy and the Shanks. So that whole parallel got me thinking that the God Knights could be somewhat similar, where they are current people living today, but they have shadows of strong people from the past. Because we saw with Nightmare Luffy, when you get a shadow put into your body, even if you're still a living person, you get a power-up, a substantial power-up. Luffy, the very first shadow Luffy got, he was all of a sudden able to use swords, which like he's never been able to do before, right? So it's like, not only are you stronger, you also get a whole new bag of tricks, right? So tying back to this whole nightmare thing, and also remember Emu said like they called themselves Mu, which is like a dream. So there's another kind of aspect there: Nightmare Luffy, Dream, Emu, whatever. But the way that what we've been talking about, the Shadow Bink stuff, the way that ties in is, I think the shadows, if that is true, that the God's Knights have shadows to make them stronger, then at least one of those shadows would be a member of Joy Boy's crew in the past, right? So imagine Joy Boy's crew was defeated. Maybe Emu froze their bodies, and that ties to the freezer that has the straw hat in it that we didn't see the other chambers of. It could be that Joy Boy's crew was frozen, and if you freeze the body, then the shadow would be like permanent in that regard, right? The body would be separated, so you don't have to worry about them. Because Moria would take shadows and then let the people go out and just like go around the Florian Triangle forever and just hope they don't come back and fight him, which is like a terrible idea. And he even had a freezer, so I don't know what he was thinking. But regardless, if you freeze the bodies, take out the shadows, you have shadows forever. So that could be what the God's Knights are. It's new people who are born, but then they just get the shadow taken out of the old body and put into the new body, so they're powered up. So all that is to say that I think the one that Shanks would have, if he is a God's Knight, would be Binks' shadow. And so it's like, well, where does that come from? Well, everyone knows Binks Sake, but we don't know exactly who this person was or anything. We just know they're important, and we know that the right hand of a lot of people tend to drink, right? So you think Zoro, right hand man of Luffy, the who's going to be the Pirate King, drinks all the time. Whenever we met Rayleigh for the first time, he had a flask. Like he was a slave, like captured in this cage, and he was drinking out of a flask, right? And then we know Shanks loves drinking too. So there's like a lot of these kind of symbolisms. And so if Binks was the right hand of Joy Boy, which sounds like insane. I know that's like the biggest part where it's like, who knows if that's true or not. But I just love that idea. So then, if you put Binks' shadow into Shanks, that could be why he's so powerful. Is that he has a shadow of like a almost god tier fighter from the past, right? But if you combine the names Shadow Binks, the first three letters of the last one, last three letters of the next one, it's literally Shanks, right? Shadow Banks combined into one word is Shanks, which is so crazy. But the reason why I think that is like a really legit idea is going back to the drinking thing. There's a couple things here. One, Shanks has a ton of connections to the like in a lot of ways to the other right hand men. So I mentioned the drinking, but they all have scars on one of their eyes. The same eye, right? They all are swordsmen. And then if you also look at Kiros, which is like the most random thing I know, but trust me, remember with Sugar and Dressrosa, Kiros was the one toy that she did not make a contract with, right? So Kiros was able to act on his own and do whatever he wanted throughout the world, and he wasn't able to be controlled by Sugar. Well, what if Shanks had basically the same thing happen, but it was at God Valley, right? Like at God Valley, he was supposed to be one of the God's Knights, but got saved, so there wasn't a contract, and so Emu can't control him, and that's why he's so obscenely strong. And that could even tie to why he was crying whenever he talked to Roger, is like there was like he asked like, hey, am I really like an evil person or whatever, because like he has a shadow in him or whatever. But the main thing there is with Kiros, he is a one-legged swordsman. Shanks is a one-armed swordsman, which is like, okay, like now we got strong parallels to all these right-hand men. Even Binks a little bit with the drinking and all that, like, and Shanks sang Binks sake even before we heard it, because like Luffy's like, oh, Shanks used to sing this. So long story short, yeah, I think Shanks could have Binks' shadow, who was Joy Boy's right-hand man, and maybe someday Emu will be able to take control back over, and that's why Shanks has been doing everything he's doing. He's like, Luffy, like he's like, I don't know how much he knows, but one day I'm gonna fight on the wrong side and I don't have a way to stop it, and so I need someone who's stronger than me, literally. Like that's why he's been training Luffy, or like training, quote unquote, like why he's challenged Luffy to surpass him is like one day I'm gonna be like on the wrong side. I know I'm like ungodly powerful. I'm almost as strong as like the strongest person ever. If Binks was the right hand man of Joy Boy, and we look at how right hand man had been depicted in the story, he would be almost as strong as Joy Boy, I feel like. So it's like, Shanks is like, I need someone stronger than me in this world, or the world has no chance, right? So that's basically it.
So, guys, check out the full video too, because I watched it alongside Hidden, and like the visuals of the theory add so much too. Like when you brought up Absalom and the parallel of where these knights that Moria had and Absalom used, the visuals of that, the thematics around it. Like I've gone back to Thriller Bark so many times. Like that was, I felt like Thriller Bark is the most important arc outside of Skypiea for Sun God Nika, mainly because he's actually called Sun God Nika basically in that arc. He's called Warrior of Liberation, and in Thriller Bark I think Oda went with a prototype name as Warrior of Hope. Yeah, and that was given to Nightmare Luffy. And so it's like when Dax is talking about the theory, it's like Nightmare Shanks is like, it would fit so many roles. And then like what Nika is, it would, when you let this theory sit with you, it elevates, because it's like one of the questions I encourage everybody to go ask themselves is, go watch my Shadows theory, ask these questions. Go watch Dax's thing, ask these questions, which is, Luffy gets his shadow taken away from him, and he's a person, and then Orbs is a person, and they're like the same, but it's like so different. And it's like, what would happen if Moria didn't affect ores, right? Like, what
Yep.
would be that situation? And like, ores is probably closer in size to the giant hat at Marijois for the original. And so like someone is asking, like, you know, and Dax brought it up, like freezing these original bodies would make a lot of sense as to how you preserve them. And then look at what we see. One thing that my theory, my Holy Knights theory connects to Dax amongst a lot of things that he said was, and I think a lot of Holy Knights theories that's not right. Rightfully so, converge on the cryo chambers, because it's so interesting that there's just like, in the manga it seems like there's 7, in the anime they did 9, but when you look at the wall it looked like there can be more.
There's no end to the building on the left side,
right?
So
and what we see is this giant door. You can scale it however you want, but this giant door, technologically advanced, by the way, considering everything else you saw in Marijois. It honestly looks more like Vegapunk's lab than anything we've ever seen. But and then you're like, you needed all this to freeze a Straw Hat? I wonder what's in the other doors, right? There has to be something important.
Has to be, and it has to be incredibly important, because think about a Straw Hat. Like, we lost our freaking minds when we saw the Straw Hat in the freezer. There is no way that the rest of it's like frozen chicken tenders and stuff, bro. Like, it's gonna be people or items from the past, like maybe an item from each of the crew of Joy Boy. Like, it's not gonna be food or just, you know, another corpse to use for later. It's gonna, like, it's not, you know what I mean? Because like Ors was a corpse they had frozen and like kept repairing and stuff. No, it's gonna be actual people or items that are like need to be kept away for some reason. You know what I mean? It's gonna be important, guaranteed.
Right. So what's in there, who's in there, very, very important. And I'm saying that, and the shadows part is also just like, I think, super meaningful. There was one thing that I did tell Dax prior, was that I feel like there has to be some kind of nuance around just the shadow part, because at the end of the day, one of the major weaknesses of having, and we talked about this at the beginning, that like manipulating shadows and shadow powers that we saw in Thriller Bark are separate. Like, whatever Emu's doing is probably a level above. And I say that because if you went with what was done at Moria's side, Salt was the counter to a lot of it. Like, even Moria was trying to prevent Ors from eating salt, right? Like, he caught, his doppelganger caught the salt out of Ors's mouth so that he wouldn't eat all the stuff. And Brooke was like upset. And so if something so simple is able to counter them, I don't know if it goes to the Holy Knights, but that's just easily fixed by like, Emu's definitely going to be in a higher level. Whatever they're doing is going to be probably the primordial version of what Moria is doing. They probably have a better understanding, so there's all there, right? But here's a question, and you made this theory before we got 1086, which was the reveal of Figarland Garland. Now, given that we know that he's the leader of the Holy Knights, I'm not sure if you have a part 2 in the works and you don't want to necessarily divulge all of it, but do you have a extension for that theory that allows Figarland Garland to fit in that scope? Does he fit seamlessly, or does you need to change some things? Because I feel like, from my understanding of what you portrayed in that theory, Figarland Garland not necessarily breaks it, but makes you need to shift a little bit. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even say shift. It's more like clarify, I would say, because I didn't really, like, I laid out a lot of the stuff, like how Shanks is tied into it, but I didn't really talk about like what the other Gods Knights would be like because Shanks is because I guess I'll just talk about Shanks just real quick. Like, the way I see Shanks is that, like, the whole point of God Valley was to make him a God's Knight by putting the shadow into him, like Binks' shadow or whatever. Okay. And so if we just make the presumption for a second that that Garling is his dad, or at least the predecessor, or like, you know, the Figarland before Shanks. Like, Shanks was meant to take his place. That's like basically what I'm getting at. Like, if we make that assumption, like that day of God Valley, the whole point was that Figarland Garling was going to give his shadow, or like the extra shadows he had, over to Shanks, like a new child, so that he could, you know, start growing as a God's Knight or whatever. But then it got intercepted. That's basically the context, like, where I think the shadow was meant to be taken out of the old God's Knight, put into the baby Shanks, but it got intercepted halfway, or at least intercepted enough to where Emu couldn't make the contract like Sugar has contracts.
Or
Like
what about
that's
this?
basically it.
So I'm glad that's the way. Okay, so then, because that's where mine and your theory, and you mentioned my idea in the video, which I appreciate, by the way, that you did that.
Oh, of course, always.
I apologize that I didn't get the video out sooner, but Oda
Okay.
was not on my side in terms of chapter pacing, because he just went sicko mode, and then he's like, "Hey guys, my eyes are sick, I need help." And then we're like, "Bro," like, I love how his chief editor, by the way, was just like, "Bro, fix it." Like, that's what it was translated to us. That's just so funny. But now Oda got the vision, or he's getting the vision, and so we got this month off, and so I'll definitely put out that video that's long overdue. And here's the thing: what if the Figarland Garland has Binks' shadow then? And in order for Shanks to get it, then it needs to be like transferred out of him.
So that's what I was gonna say. So like maybe there's a caveat there where maybe it isn't necessarily that like Shanks did get the shadow, but the contract wasn't made. Maybe it's that before the shadow was even removed, they came and saved Shanks, so he doesn't even have that influence, right? Like there's a couple ways you could look at it.
Yeah.
Um,
And here's
so
a fun thing just to add, because like what's really cool about the mechanism of shadows was Oda included that it is like individual strength does matter. The strength of the host directly results to how long you can hold the shadow, how like much potential you can get from the shadow. Like for example, Ryuma like was nerfed because he had Brook's shadow technically, and in a lot of ways, like if you thought about it, like Zoro in these other, like the other bodies, like they would be nerfed in the other route, right? Whereas like Luffy kind of was like not matched, but like yeah, an ancient giant kind of matches like Luffy's base body and was able to tolerate like a lot of what Luffy could, right? So like that, what Moria also said was that the stronger the body, like the stronger like overall this process is. So Garland being like trained to be super strong, Shanks being trained to be super strong, that might be a necessary thing to do before the shadow is put in order to get maximum efficiency. And it may be that you need to get the shadow put into you in order like training, right? Like it could be something like that.
it could even be a thing where it's not even that like what happened to God Valley. It might not even be that Garling was going to give up the shadow to Shanks that day. It may have been where maybe like the contract was meant to be made with Shanks. Like what it, and again, I'm like speaking so loosely because we don't even have contracts and shadows actually linked yet in One Piece. We just have them separate. But if we presume that that's a possibility, you know, Emu's like Sugar and all that, it could be that maybe that, because Shanks was just 1 year old, so it could be a thing where like they were just trying to like make a contract with Shanks in general, so that his shadow was like forced. You know, like if Emu ever wanted to control him or whatever, they could. And then later they get Garling's shadow, like when Shanks is like an adult, because that would make sense. Because like you wouldn't want to waste 20 years of a God's Night, right? Because like if you take Garling shadow, or like the Binks' shadow that Garling had, or whatever it is, if you take that shadow out of Garling and then put it into a baby Shanks, well, for 20 years you don't have a fighter, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or like 15 or however old, you know, till Shanks is like old enough to actually fight people, like learn how to use a sword and stuff. So it would make more logical sense that it's like maybe whenever the child's born, you lock them into a contract like right away, so that they're always going to listen to you, and then you don't give them the powerful shadows until later on. That I think honestly makes more sense. So that it could be that Garling still has Binks' shadow in him right now, you know, and so
Right.
but like later, and so that could be why Shanks is important, because they might be looking at it like, all right, because like whatever happened to God Valley, Shanks is like the only person who can get this shadow now, so like he's gonna have to get it eventually. So like they know it's like a ticking time bomb. Like whenever Garling dies, maybe they know he's like automatically gonna get it, like because the shadow has to go somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Mm-hmm.
like maybe they. Because like whenever the shadows got released from like Nightmare Luffy and Shadow Asgard Moria, they went back to those people's bodies. They went back to like their home base, right? Like they went back to where there was kind of like Brook's soul, like looking for his body. It's like a similar, like all the shadows went back, and so I could see a thing where maybe what you do, just real quick, and then because this is the last point, then I'm done. Then you can cook. Is it could be like when Shanks is a baby, they set it up so they make Shanks like the home base for the shadow, if that makes sense, right? So like somehow they're able to make it. Maybe Emu makes a contract with Binks' shadow to be like, hey, when this body's done, you go to this one, and that's like the whole point of it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it could just be a thing where like Shanks is like the predestined home for that shadow, and whenever he does get that shadow, he's gonna get taken over. Like he'll fight on the wrong side. So it could be a thing where like the second Garling dies, then Shanks is on the wrong side, or I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could read into it.
Yeah, no, like so in terms of like the home base thing, right? What I was gonna say is I think after Luffy lost his shadows, they went to Moria because after he beat Oars, he lost his shadows immediately. Moria ate all the shadows, went Asgard Moria. Then after Luffy defeated him, that's when the shadows got released,
Right.
and that does create like a homing situation where like the Moria ultimately can command the shadows to do anything. He can put a command on anything, and the reason why I'm highlighting that is because you mentioned Perona, or not Perona, Sugar. You said like the contract thing. The interesting thing, and I know it exists. I just at the moment I can't find the chapter for some reason. It's on my computer if I didn't like close out all of my tabs, but and I've been hiding this for a little bit, but Perona, when she's using her powers and commanding her crew, which she has her own set of people, she
Yep.
speaks in the same way as Emu. She says thou. She says like she starts speaking in those manners, which completely changes in the officials, and I'm pretty sure in the Raws it like a complete like paradigm shift, similar to like when Moose is like saying like thou, like talking to Cobra, and then there's like a like not it's not a complete shift, but like it is that connection of Perona giving a command to her people, like Emu having that like manner of speech is interesting given all the context. And so I'm not going to talk about my full video here, but I will share what you mentioned in your video, where both of our ideas kind of converge on this idea of like there's this vessel, there's these like candidates or hosts that are right for passing on these powers, and I think both of us are kind of on the same line of logic. It ultimately comes down to what the cryo rooms are about. It ultimately comes down to like the nuance of Figarland, in my opinion, because where I think through him we'll learn a lot. And the what specifically for on my end, which I wish I got my video out sooner, because it's not detracted by Figarland's showing, thankfully so, and I'm glad yours isn't as either. But my line of logic is that the role of holy knights is passed on through the sword. So the swords we have seen now, Enma is a excellent grade sword, not a curse blade, not a black blade, and it still can have a will and personality, so much so that it's carrying like some kind of iota of Odin, but also wants Zoro to complete something, and it's pushing him in a direction, right? But after Enma, we are going to get supreme grade blades. We're going to get black blades, and we're going to get supreme grade black blades, supreme grade curse blades. And what's awesome is in the story, there are, interestingly, outside of Ace, which is Roger's sword, Whitebeard's sword, we think that the Gorosei might have the Shodai Katetsu, which that is an interesting scope here. And then, so we know there's 4, including Yoru, which, you know, that adds this. But there are 8 supreme grade blades outside of, you know, 9 if you want to consider that the Gorosei might already have one. But it might not even be that all of them need to be swords. We know that weapons in general, we know items in general, like the fact that a straw hat is in one of the cryo chambers could lend itself to the idea that one of the holy knights could have been Joy Boy. It could have been that like they were the right hand of someone, rather than a king. But ultimately, one second. One second, sorry. Ultimately, the like we're seeing like a progression of swords and personalities, in wills, in you know, I would imagine memories are in there too, and there's a small sense there when the Shimasen, or I think that's how you pronounce it, started playing, Enma activated. Is that
Yeah.
not the memories of Odin's favorite song, right?
The
Um,
anime made that really clear. Like in
yeah,
the manga, I wouldn't have thought that as clearly. And I don't know, I don't know how fair it is to like leverage the anime that much, but the anime made it like extremely clear, in my opinion, that it was like the music started and the sword was solely reacting to the music. Like Zoro, get up! My daughter's around here. Get up right now! Like you need to go fight this
yeah.
person and go protect her. Like,
And
and
it's funny because
it,
I had the idea, I'm pretty sure before that episode aired. And then when that episode aired, I saw that, or actually, no, it might have been after, but I watched the episode later. And I was like,
yeah,
damn, that hits way harder with this. And
yeah.
so it could be that Garland has Binks's sword, or maybe not Binks, but someone's sword that
Mhm.
passes on the Holy Knight's will. And that will is incredibly powerful, so much so that it could overtake you, so much so that it can
Yeah.
it can control you. And I have a future video coming out on that.
Well, man, you're cooking right now. I just got to say real quick, just a couple things floating in my head that I know are going to escape me if I don't say it right now because it's too important. The ties between music and emotions and soul is absolutely insane. And I mean, you said a lot of it, but I mean, obviously we know Brook is the Soul King and he plays music and all that, but the music affects souls, right? Like a lot of the soul powered things feel affected when he plays music. Then we talked about Miss Golden Week a lot earlier, who doesn't have a devil fruit, but they use like colors and stuff to affect your emotions. And then you look at Perona, who we mentioned earlier. Perona uses ghosts or like souls, like loosely kind of, to affect your emotions again. And whenever you affect your emotions like this, which like music can do, Perona's powers can do, these random paints that Miss Golden Week had for some reason can do. Whenever you affect emotions, you affect the will, right? Like your will is not the same if your emotions are changed, right? Like because that's exactly how like Luffy and everyone, they can't fight anymore. Even though they know they want to, they can't because like the emotions aren't letting them. Um, so I just want to say all that, like the ties there are absolutely insane, and I know like you're bringing up a lot of the sword stuff, which can tie into that too. But it's just like I wonder if Emu's gonna have something to do with that,
Yeah,
like just
and
messing with your emotions.
creating black blades, we still don't know why Oda's holding off on that. If it's for the Holy Knights, that could make a lot of sense. But what I will say, and a lot of you guys, especially the people here, probably understand where I'm getting at, where it's like, hey, there might be a connection between shadows, memories, swords, and all of them combining, which is why Dax's idea and my idea is kind of synonymous. It's mainly the what's again in the cryo chambers, what Garland shows us. I think on my end, the reason why I like the swords, there's a certain character, which you guys can probably imagine, that makes this really, really great. But then there's also
Yep.
some things that he tells us. Some things, and I'm not gonna say specifics, but this is one of the goose chases I'll send you guys on. I think he was one of the reasons why the Holy Knights was foreshadowed in the pre-time skip. He said specifically two lines that I re-looked at and I'm like, yo, he literally told us this. And so one thing about that, yeah, like so that video is coming out after this series of 3. I have it written, but it got delayed because chapter 1086. And yeah, so one thing is I just got notified that I actually have to go in a little bit, in like 5-10 minutes. So there was a
Cool.
lot of stuff that I didn't realize. There's a slight emergency, but my wife needs me, so
That's important. Would
yeah.
you want to try to running through the super chat? I'll say this 2 seconds, literally. Par's going to be on my channel at some point during this void month, so we can pick back up on a lot of this. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that, guys. I mean, we hit 340, 3 hours of 40, which is more than we intended, but
More than I told him I could do whenever we started. So.
yeah. And then also on top of that, a lot of what we're talking about, I don't think we expected to be able to fit in one stream anyways. And honestly, I'm kind of excited to come onto your channel and tell you about once I get my videos out, because yo, they're crazy. Like last year during the break month, I had like the craziest videos I think of my channel, and I think that's repeating now. And I can't wait to show you specifically because like afterwards, again, you were the one of the people that bounced off of those theories and expanded on it. Like the Binks, the Shadow Binks thing is one of my favorite things, you know. But then also like the other lines of logic. There's so many other things that were just
Yeah.
beautiful, and
No.
we need to highlight those moments and reminisce, and I can't wait to do that again. These streams. Let me just tell my wife I got it, and then I'll go. Don't worry.
Yeah, whenever we both come to the same conclusion or almost the same one from two angles, that's when you know it's some beefy stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And what I will say is there's a bunch of super chats. I know you guys put a lot of thought into them. So what I will do is tomorrow I'm actually streaming. So I will take the time to go through these super chats. And if I don't get through all of them tomorrow because there is a schedule, then I have them saved for always, and I'll be able to check them out in the next stream, because I will be streaming often. Next week I'm planning on streaming with Hidden Island, and again, we're going to be streaming with Dax later on. There's going to be a lot of guests. I do want to shout out that a lot of streams, a lot of videos. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up with some gray hairs, but let me get through some of these super chats just to, and I'm going to save these two so that we can expand on them more, but I just want to get through them. So and then also, if you guys haven't subscribed to Dax Sake, definitely do so. Definitely one of my favorite people in the community. Also appreciate him helping me out as I start back up streaming too. As you guys can imagine, keeping up with the chats, he's been helping me out. All the support, the community from Dax Sake, the videos, all that, and yeah, there's like 20,000 new subs since we last talked to Dax, and those people better shift over to the Dax vision. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. I got to get on the. Well, somebody said this earlier. I was gonna say I don't know what to call it. The Apple Vision. I don't know what to call it. But your logo looks like you're wearing the Apple headset. So I gotta. I don't know.
If you
if any of
guys-
the Apple Visions want to come on over, we'll take it.
If you guys think that, go to my Twitter and please boost my campaign to get Apple to collab with me. We're trying to get all the people to, you know, I haven't reached out to the creators, but we got like 100 retweets already. So we will try to get some Apple in there. You know what I mean?
Part. Even if you got to get a sticker that says ParVision and you just put it over, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
We need the picture, dude. Please, like, even if you can't get the full partnership, just the picture, dude. Like that would go so viral if you got an actual headset and put ParVision on the front.
It was in the works to get the visor thing or the goggles, and like I had everything planned out. Like I have these to give to you guys because obviously the one that I'm getting I wouldn't be able to like mass produce and sell to you guys. But then the Vision Pros came out. I'm like, they, you know, I don't have the IP to sue, you know, in terms of, I mentioned earlier, billionaires that I want to fight. I got a long list of them.
They got a little more legal potential than you, I think. They got a little longer leash with the lawyers.
Hey, all I'm saying is that even billionaires should be afraid. I know a few. LG.
I love that. We can talk about that for hours, but I love that.
LG 916 $10 says, could Loki be the man marked by flames if he fought Shanks and his fire sword? He was then defeated and kicked off Elbaf, which is why Kid went there looking for him but encountered Shanks instead. Wait, that was a cracked super chat, and I'm so
oh my god. I feel so bad we got that at the very end where we can't
expand. That is why I'm so sorry for Loki. God damn.
I'm gonna say this. I definitely don't think that's the case, but goddamn, that's an amazing theory to read regardless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. Will of Gill, $5 says, the Suns, the only team that took to game 6, if I'm correct. Suns winning it all next year. Sun God Booker. Yo, that's crazy.
Oh my god. He's been calling him that for a minute. Hey, listen, this Suns are getting rid of Chris Paul, man. Like not that Chris Paul is great, but they don't have options, is what I'm getting at. Like they're so cash strapped, they're just waiving Chris Paul. So best of luck to the Suns, man. Go Cavs.
Go Cavs. Aztec Device, $5 says, what if Emu is actually the Kraken / giant squid devil fruit? Blackbeard knows about it from ancient histories. That's why there are so many similarities. That would be kind of sick. I would like that, but thematically, I like my ideas more. But I like the Kraken thing, but maybe when the Gorosei is that. Like, I talked about it that the guy all the way on the right could have been like an octopus, but then the ears throw it off. So I don't know. Something there. I like octopus and Kraken though. Yuna 250 euros says, have you noticed that Sugar uses Dao like Emu? I actually didn't remember that, but I'm gonna go back and check that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if it was you. Somebody commented that on my Shanks video, and I was like,
"Ooh,
how did I not know?" So like that's amazing.
Ghostly Glow, 3 months Prime sub, taking that from Jeff Bezos himself. Appreciate you. Says the panel of baby Shanks seems important now. For sure, oh, yeah. Definitely. Kids are always important. AMAC, $5. Says, do y'all think Nika, Joy Boy, and Emu have a connection with the Endless Sun and the void below Ennie's lobby? Yeah, I think you know what? I'll say I think a Gorosei could be related to that. It doesn't necessarily need to be Nika Joy Boy, in my opinion. I think a Gorosei, or not the Gorosei, or maybe the original, like whatever existed in the past, like their powers. If it's these guys, I'm waiting to see it. You know, I'm waiting to see it. Young Usopp $5 says, if you look at Sanji's lighter from Skypiea, there's a woman on it. Could this be the first image of Lily? Could she have fled to the Sky Islands? Someone made a TikTok about that, and it looks one-to-one to Sora. I'll look at it again, but it's a really cool detail when you guys look at it. It looks exactly like Sora, though. Young Usopp $2 says, with Odin smiling at death, are the Kozuki a D? I think the D is a mental state of mind, so yes. Considering Odin saw the Void Century is related to people who wrote the Poneglyphs, he's probably a D clan. Like, honestly, just give him the D. He has the biggest D. He was like 9 years old flying in that thing, all right?
Yeah, I think he has the will of D, but he may not have the D initial, legally, quote unquote.
Yeah,
you know, I hate saying that, but you know what I mean. Like, he wasn't born with it, but he has the will of D. I agree.
Yeah. Young Usopp $5 says Emu is Nika's sibling, the Moon God, became envious of his relationships over through the Ancient Kingdom, taking his kingdom, which is now Mare Joie. I like the idea of Nika having siblings. I do. The Moon God thing, especially now with Emu, Nerona, Moon. I like that. In terms of the envy and the relationships, it's interesting if it's like something that was stolen. But then we got like that heliocentric, geocentric situation, and you know, I wanna get more context before I lock in that kind of situation. But like a familial thing. I think a familial thing makes sense because in Japan, like the sun, moon, and storm, earth people, they were all brothers and sisters born from the same person. But I feel like in One Piece, it's almost going like a separate route where they became friends and they separated more so than family at birth. And that's like more meaningful of like how will is inherited. But they could be siblings. I do see that. I called Caribou Nika's siblings. So like maybe Emu's Nika's siblings. So, but before I go, would be remiss, Dax, hit them with some final words, and then I'll hit them with final words, and peace out.
Well, Par, it was a pleasure as always, and always will be. Happy to be here. It's crazy. I've been doing this for a year, and I've actually been kind of talking to you for more than a year, a little bit. I've been bugging you about some theories in your Discord. So, no, it means a lot to be here, everyone. I just want to say, if you ever thought about being a One Piece YouTuber, just know, I went from having 0 videos to being on stream with Par in a handful of months, and I'm not saying that's going to happen to every single person, but the point is that it's possible. And I want to shout out the MIT commencement speech from Mark Rober. I don't know if anyone heard about this at all, but he just did it the other day, and the main thing he wanted to talk about, and I'm actually doing a short that talks about this because there's some One Piece characters that do this, is focusing on naive optimism. You can be naively pessimistic or naively optimistic. You can think, oh, even though this doesn't seem like I can ever be successful, maybe there's a small chance I could be. Or you could go for you could look at all the reasons you're going to fail, right? You can choose which reasons to weight more and how you want to have the outlook on life. And I think everyone here should be naively optimistic about themselves. If there's anything you ever wanted to achieve, you're the only one stopping that. So, and other than that, Nolan video coming out as soon as it gets approved, whenever that is. So
yeah, and expect more Dax vision, Sake vision in the weeks, and We'll make it happen. Don't worry, guys. And I'll get to these super chats again tomorrow. Speaking about tomorrow I have a big sponsored stream, so I'd love to see that support. I'll send out notifications again. It's actually going to redirect you directly there. So I want to thank Dax. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all this time and going overtime like always. And then I want to thank everyone for being here for that overtime, which is mostly my fault. And then no, like 99% me. And then Randy and Hidden, that One Piece talk, Preach, everyone who showed up in the stream, appreciate you.
Yep.
I gotta go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys like every week this break week. Think about me
several times a week.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
Yep.
So peace out,
Have
guys.
a good one, guys.